A little boy walking around a military place where bodies are dropping left and right, but this boy has no trouble with this scenario because he is cause for all of this. He's only interested in finding a woman named Asaka. Suddenly, he finds her being held at gunpoint by someone we don't know much about. Asaka is surprised to see the boy, Yogiri, somehow made it into the base where she was kept. The person holding her hostage threatens to hurt her if Yogiri comes closer, but he just stares at her, and then she falls down dead. Asaka doesn't know what Yogiri did, but he's just glad to have her back. Later, Yogiri wakes up by a different girl, who is shaking his cucumber. Sorry guys, I mean by shaking him. She introduces herself as Danara, and Yogiri asks what's wrong. But she's surprised how the f he has slept through a big incident that happened. There are bodies on the floor of the bus, and Danara doesn't know what they'll do. Outside, they see a tail moving, so Yogiri throws a microphone at one of the things that stabbed his classmate. It hurts a wyvern outside, making it react strangely. It charges at them, and Danara thinks they're doomed because they can't fight such a powerful beast. In a desperate move, she presses against Yogiri, which makes him care just enough to do something. He says something, and the dragon drops dead before them. Danara is confused and doesn't understand what just happened, so Yogiri pulls out a video game to calm her down so they can talk. But she gets upset, thinking it's not the time to play games anymore. She asks if he doesn't want to leave the bus yet, but Yogiri doesn't see the rush since they're not sure if it's safe outside. Danara understands but wants him to take the situation seriously. Yogiri agrees and asks to be filled in on what happened. Danara explains they were on a field trip, riding the bus like usual, but when they went through a tunnel, they ended up in a sunny meadow, which is where they are now. At first, it was a pleasant yet confusing surprise when someone boarded the bus and introduced themselves as the sage Sion. She seemed nice enough at first glance, but when the teacher asked the reasonable question of what's going on, she blasted his head without any hesitation, decapitated him. She tells everyone that she doesn't intend to harm anyone directly, but if they make her angry, they might regret it. She tries to make a joke, but it's so unfunny that she ends up killing the driver out of frustration for her own lack of humor. She explains to the rest of the students that she brought them all here to become sages. In this world, sages rule, but sometimes they need to replenish their numbers, which is why they were summoned here. She raises her hands and causes most of the students to begin glowing as she installs a system in their bodies called Battle Song, which comes with a status window. However, Danara didn't get one, so she isn't sure what it looks like. Sion explains that they've been given what this world calls gifts, and they'll need to use them well to become sages in the near future. They only have 1 month to achieve this goal, otherwise they'll die. Danara raises her hand and asks what happened because she didn't get one of those gifts, but Sion just says that there are times when people aren't suited to receive magical gifts, so tough luck, you're out of luck. She's doomed to become nothing more than livestock in this world. With that out of the way, Sion tells them that their first quest will be starting soon, where a dragon will be attacking them, so they should try their best not to die. Danara's friend looks over her menu screen and sees information about the dragon that will be attacking soon. Danara still can't believe an actual dragon is going to attack. One member of their class gets everyone's attention and suggests that they work together to clear the mission. To do that, they need to know what abilities they have, so he asks everyone to reveal their gifts. The class complies and writes down their abilities to formulate a plan. However, Danara, who doesn't have an ability, can't participate. She wasn't the only one without an ability. There were 3 others: Aka, Shinzaki, and Yirokuru. Then there's also Yagui, who managed to sleep through the entire commotion undisturbed. But then again, it's not like he ever did anything other than sleep in the first place. After a while, the rest of the gifted classmates who were sharing their ability list start leaving without saying a word to those in the back who didn't receive one. Danara tries to wake Yogiri up so they can follow the rest of the class as they exit the bus, but the one who led the gifted class stops them. He explains that Yogiri didn't receive a gift, and while those who did have gained special abilities, the rest of the class are just regular people who are still struggling. Shinzaki asks the gifted class to protect those without gifts since they have the power to do so. However, the guy leading the gifted class thinks it would be a burden for them to protect people who are weak. So, they came up with a plan to ditch them and use them as bait. Everyone in the class agrees to this plan, leaving no one to appeal to for help. Another classmate uses her ability to cast charm on the giftless classmates, making them all look more attractive. Unfortunately, they're going to face the dragon, and it won't be a pleasant experience for them. The rest of the class leaves them to their fate, and they're clueless about what to do next. Things worsen as the dragon arrives and starts attacking. However, one classmate remains peacefully asleep in the back of the bus while the others face danger. Yogiri now realizes the seriousness of his situation in this unfamiliar world. He wonders how he'll charge his video game without any outlets available. On top of that, according to what they learned from the gifted class, there's likely only one dragon in the area, so it should be safe to go outside now that it's dead. Before they leave, Danara asks Yogiri if he did something to the dragon earlier, but he simply says he told it to die, which she finds hard to believe. Despite her doubts, he steps out of the bus. There are 3 options for places they can go to: a hill, the city, or the forest. However, it's probably not a good idea to go into an unknown forest unprepared. Before a decision can be made, Danara notices something flying towards them. Yogiri asks if it's another dragon, but this time it's 3 of their classmates: Higashida, Fukuhara, and Hanakawa. She's surprised to see them flying in, so Yogiri asks if he should kill them just in case. Danara stops him, insisting they should at least hear them out before resorting to violence. But Yogiri points out that leaving the giftless behind to be killed isn't something a good person would do. Danara still doesn't want to have to kill anyone, but she acknowledges they may still be hostile towards them for no reason. The 3 gifted students are shocked to see that the dragon is dead and Danara is still alive. Their plan was to use their powers to turn her into a zombie and do terrible things to her, and they say all of this right in front of Danara herself. She realizes Yogiri may have been right about them not being good people and is suddenly much less opposed to killing them. Hikida launches a fireball powerful enough to melt straight through the bus and carve into a mountain behind them, showing the power difference between them and trying to force Danara into submission. Higashida says that in this world, he can do whatever he wants, and the first thing on his list is to harm Danara, along with the other 2 guys who have been dreaming about it for a long time. Danara is terrified by the thought of what they would do to her, but Yogiri tells her to calm down while he puts them in a situation for a civil discussion. He then points at Higashida and tells him to die. The others laugh, thinking Yogiri is just being strange, but to their utter shock, Higashida actually falls to the ground and dies. They don't understand what happened, but Yogiri explains that he told him to die, and he did. He then tells them not to move, but the other one drops to his knees to help his friend, and as a result, Yogiri tells him to die as well. Hanakawa is now the only one left, and Yogiri reiterates that if he moves at all, he'll be killed. Yogiri begins to explain his ability, but first, he instructs Hanakawa to check to make sure the others are actually dead. Hanakawa goes to them and starts trying to heal them with his ability, which allows him to help anyone recover from injuries, no matter how severe. However, his powers do nothing here because the people he's trying to heal are already dead. Hanakawa starts to say that Yogiri went too far with this, but Yogiri points out that they were the ones who came in here trying to harm Danara for nefarious purposes. Yogiri's ability is instant death to any target. If he simply thinks about wanting to kill someone, they will immediately die without exception. Hanakawa can't believe what he is hearing since that power is way too broken. Nonetheless, he tries to play it off and get in close for a sneak attack. However, Yogiri stops him before he can do anything stupid and informs him that he also has the ability to determine if there is any killing intent directed towards him. So when you combine the 2 abilities, literally anyone who has the intent of killing Yogiri may die just because they thought about harming him. Hanakawa breaks down, realizing that there is no way he can win against Yogiri. But Yogiri asks why he got so full of himself after just receiving his gift. Hanakawa explains that this isn't the first time they have come to this world. A while ago, the magicians of the Kingdom of Iman summoned them to defeat the Demon Lord. They went on adventures in this world for about a year, and once they finally defeated the Demon Lord, they returned to Earth. However, it seemed like no one on Earth remembered them disappearing for an entire year. According to Hanakawa, after they were returned to Earth, they found out that only a few hours had passed since they were initially summoned. Yogiri takes that to mean that there is a way for them to return to Earth. He raises his hand to finish off Hanakawa to prevent any future issues with him. Hanakawa begs to be spared by Yogiri. He tries to get Danara to help him out here, but after what he said when he initially came here, she is the last person who would ever want to do him a favor. As a last resort, Hanakawa pulls out a rare slave collar item, which will make the wearer unable to disobey the commands of the first person they see. He puts the collar on and is now bound to the will of Danara. However, she doesn't want to deal with him, so she offloads the task of being his master onto Yogiri. Since Hanakawa can't disobey orders now, Yogiri decides to leave him alive for a while. However, he tells him to go stand in the forest full of magical beasts and wait. Yogiri also instructs him to leave behind any valuable items he has. Hanakawa is forced to drop his entire inventory worth of loot from his last summoning. Danara questions if Yogiri may be being a little too harsh by taking all of his stuff away and making him wait in a deadly forest. However, they aren't exactly friends, and there is no telling when he might betray them in the end. Danara then asks why Yogiri is sticking with her since she could also betray him at some point. But Yogiri responds that if it happens, then it happens. He's fine with it since he's the one who chose to trust her. Danara blushes a little and asks why he's going through such lengths to protect her, even though they have basically never spoken to each other before. But Yogiri doesn't really know. If he had to think of a reason, then it would probably be because of her melons. Danara gets red in the face from embarrassment and accuses him of only wanting her for her body as well. Elsewhere, Sion is in bed and very pleased with herself when someone named Yuchai comes in to give her a report on the students she summoned. They have cleared the first mission, but there were 4 fatalities in the process. Sion assumes the fatalities were from the students who weren't able to receive gifts, but while 2 of them did die, there were also 2 S-rank gift holders that died in the process. That's a big surprise, especially since they died without any warning. But Sion doesn't think it's anything they really need to be worried about, so she tells Yuchai that he can handle it any way he sees fit. Yogiri and Danara finally make it to the city gates after several hours of walking, but they see the guards closing the gates as they approach. Yogiri expected as much since it's getting late, so they rush over to get their attention before they get locked out for the night. Danara goes up to one of the guards, but they can't understand a single word she is saying. The 2 get brought in and wait under a tent while the guards go get their boss to handle the situation. After a few moments, Masahiko arrives, annoyed that he still has to work so late into the night. He understands Japanese, much to the relief of Danara, and he already seems to have an idea of what is going on here. The rest of their classmates came through town earlier that day, so he has already dealt with them. Normally, he would charge a toll in order to enter the city, but he receives clear instructions from Sion not to get in the way of the sage candidates, so he won't be charging them today. Yogiri asks about the other sage candidates Masahiko mentioned coming through and recalls that they had mentioned something about going to the capital, so he asks which direction that would be. But while Masahiko is not allowed to get in their way, there is no incentive for him to help them, so Yogiri gets up to leave. As they are passing by, Masahiko takes a good look at Danara's plots and says he wouldn't mind if Danara stayed in his mansion for the night, and he offers him also so much fun in the night. She doesn't seem interested and grabs Yogiri's hand to run away with a look of scary on her face. She may not have liked the guy, but the reason she dragged Yogiri away so quickly was because she was afraid he would kill the guy for what he said. Yogiri doesn't know why she would think he is the kind of person to do something like that, but then again, he did kill his classmates back there for just moving, so it doesn't seem out of character for him. She moves on to another topic and talks about how amazing this town looks. It even has people that look like beast folk. And speaking of beast folk, she gets approached by a cat girl called Mairyu. Mairyu can tell that it's their first time in town and asks if they might be in trouble or in need of any kind of help from her because if they are, she's there to assist with anything. She seems a little too friendly for someone they just met, so Yogiri asks what she stands to gain by helping them out here. She doesn't even try to hide it and says she just wants to get along with all the sage candidate boys because they are all down bad and dying of thirst. And as a cat girl, if the sage boys become successful in the future, she can roll in that 10 on seduction and live the easy life from then on. Danara doesn't agree with the thought process, but she can at least respect Mairyu's honesty on the matter. Mairyu goes on to say that Danara doesn't need to worry because she won't attempt seduction on anyone who already has a girlfriend. She is well aware of what Yandere girls are willing to do to keep their man, so she isn't going to risk it. Her seductive intentions aside, they don't see anything else shady about Mairyu, and Danara wanted to take a look around town anyway before it gets too dark, so they decided to accept the cat girl's help. What's the worst that could happen? It's not like this is a trap or anything, but it was a trap. The 2 men end up surrounded by a bunch of thieves after they spend the entire evening shopping in town. So Yogiri tries to de-escalate the situation by asking if they will accept money to leave them alone. The thieves agree that money would be nice, but what they are really after is talentless sage candidates like Yogiri and Danara. Whenever Sion goes and summons a bunch of sage candidates, the ones with good gifts often end up going wild with their power. And the thieves have gotten sick of all the Dragon Ball fights happening in their backyards and bringing down the property value. However, they are weak compared to the gift bearers, so it's not like they can complain about it either. So they go after the weak sage candidates to make themselves feel better. They plan to kill Yogiri and then make use of Danara as irresistible assets. Now that he has a clear grasp on their intentions and has failed to de-escalate, Yogiri is going to have to make a call to the local mortician. Danara tries to get Mairyu to call it off because someone is definitely going to die here. And it's not going to be Yogiri, but she thinks they are just bluffing because there is no way someone without a gift could be so powerful in this world. Danara has done her best to save them, but it's time to make that call. First, they're going to need 5 coffins for the people behind Yogiri, but he tries to take it easy on the rest of the people there, so he tells this guy to just half die, essentially turning him into a vegetable. That was still a little extreme. He tries going for individual body parts instead. But that is still pretty bad regardless. I think he is just playing with them and having fun. He decides to put an end to this. Mairyu realizes that she messed up big time and tries to beg for her life with her sob story of needing to make money to help her sick brother. But Yogiri raises the point that she tried to kidnap and sell them into slavery, so she isn't going to be getting a redemption arc either. As Yogiri is ready to put an end to this, he tells both her and the last guy to just die. However, this time nothing happens, and they thank the heavens that they are still alive. But they aren't going to stick around for Yogiri to try again, so they both make a run for it. Danara asks him why he chose to let them go, but he didn't. His kill success rate is always 100%. So just when Mairyu thought she was a safe distance away, the death kicked in. And believe it or not, she dies. Oh yeah, the last guy ends up dying too. No offense guys, but tell how much you care about the last guy. He is just an Anor NPC. With all the attackers dead, Yogiri and Danara begin to walk off. However, they are called back by the city's guards who got news of the abnormally high number of coffins requested from the mortician, so they want to have a little chat with him about what just happened. Yogiri tries to lie his way out of this and just says that he found these guys on the forest already, but the guard isn't falling for his excellent deception tactics because she saw the whole thing. Those guys suddenly fell dead just before they could attack. Danara can't believe Edelgard is making them the suspects after they were the ones who got attacked first. And if she was watching the entire time, why didn't she do something to help when they were clearly in trouble? Edelgard makes the claim that she was just trying to find out who those guys are selling all their victims to. So they were going to let them kidnap Yogiri and Danara and just follow them until they found the guy they were looking for. She also tells them that the guards have received the sage's protection, so the gifts they have as sage candidates won't work on them, and they should just come quietly if they don't want any trouble. However, one of Edelgard's men uses his appraisal ability on both and finds that neither of them actually possesses any sage abilities, so they can't explain how Yogiri could have possibly managed to do this, and thus they have no grounds to make an arrest. Edelgard admits defeat and tells them they are free to go, and her subordinate apologizes for his commander's rudeness. Yogiri tells him it's fine, but as an apology, it would be nice if he could hook them up with a place to stay for the night. The man doesn't disappoint, and Yogiri and Danara now have a really fancy inn to stay at. While Danara is still taking in the beauty of the place, Yogiri asks if she would like to share the same room with him while they are here. She finds that to be a bit embarrassing, so Yogiri offers to just have their rooms be next to each other. What do you think, guys? How smooth our is? Danara gets to her room and marvels at the luxury it provides. As she jumps on the huge bed, she starts thinking about Yogiri and marvels at the request to share a room with her. She wonders what kind of pervy things he must have been thinking about to ask for such a thing. Then again, this is literally the first time she's been away from Yogiri since they got to this world. And without him there to protect her, she would either be dead or enslaved thrice over. She wonders if Yogiri really likes her after all, but she thinks he already made it clear that he was specifically after those soft cushions of hers. While she squeezes her face into a pillow out of embarrassment, she hears a sound coming from the room and looks up to find a ghost floating over her bed. She's freaked out and screamed "fuck" at first, but then she realizes that the ghost happens to look a lot like her sister. However, her sister is still alive, and this must be their family guardian spirit. The guardian spirit makes it clear that she wants to have nothing to do with Danara's sister ever again. She is here to help Danara in her time of need since she is facing a very troubling series of events. Danara wonders why the spirit didn't help her when the dragon attacked or when she was almost sold into slavery twice in the same day. The guardian spirit, Moko, is honest and tells her that she is scared to death by Yogiri. That really tells you it's bad because she's already dead. With the kind of power Yogiri has, if she were to appear recklessly in front of him and make a bad impression, she could be erased from existence in an instant. so she wants Danara to tell Yogiri about her before she shows herself to him, so he won't think of her as a threat. Danara says she'll tell him tomorrow, but then asks what kind of help Moko was going to give her. Moko explains that since she is a spirit, she can protect Danara from most things aside from physical attacks. In fact, she was the one who prevented the battle song Sage Gift from being installed into her body back on the bus. Danara gets angry because Moko basically put her at a permanent disadvantage in this world. But Moko doesn't see the problem since she thought Danara would have been opposed to a random person putting something suspicious inside her body. The Sage Gift certainly has its advantages, but once you allow it to be installed, then Sion basically has control over you for the rest of your life, so it's not the best trade-off. Besides, Moko's goal is to ensure that Danara returns to Earth to become the successor of their family martial arts technique. While Danara certainly would like to go home, she's pretty much stuck just relying on Yogiri because she is so weak. But that's where Moko is going to work her magic, as she will teach Danara all the centuries of fighting techniques she knows of. The next morning, Danara meets Yogiri downstairs after not getting any sleep the whole night because she is jumping up and down all night. Sorry guys, I mean Moko's midnight training arc. She asks Yogiri if they are going to meet up with the rest of their classmates after this, and that is something he wanted to talk to her about. They both meet with a woman called Celestina, who has been helping Yogiri by looking up the locations of all his classmates and how to get to them from here, as well as getting language translation and status concealment items for them. She made him a charger for his game console. I've got to say, Celestina is really earning that paycheck. She has also prepared 2 tickets for the both of them to reach the capital by train with a noon departure time. Yogiri thanks her for all her hard work, and if you were wondering how they've been paying for all the stuff they've gotten, they still have tons of gold they robbed from the 3 returner students. Yogiri asks Celestina if she can take their leftover gold and invest it for them, and she does it with no issues. The two move on to continue their journey to join up with the rest of their classmates and are heading toward the primal forest because Celestina thinks they will head there to train. But midway through the ride, Yogiri senses something and pushes Danara down to avoid a slash that destroys the entire train car. One of those Dragon Ball Sage fights is happening nearby, and the collateral damage is really high. Elsewhere, one of this world's sages receives a report from Edelgard about the situation that occurred earlier, but they still don't know what happened since the guy who is still alive hasn't been able to give them an answer. This was the guy whose eyes Yogiri told to die, but they do not know about his ability, so they are confused in trying to figure out the cause. Even after ripping out one of the guy's eyes and using healing magic to grow a new one back in place, he still can't see. The sage then tries to use her vampire nature to turn him into one and give him regenerative powers, but that doesn't work either. Their experiments are cut short soon after as someone bursts through the wall with a sword in hand. Returning to Yogiri and Danara, who are still on the destroyed train, Yogiri can tell that they were not the intended targets for that attack, but it is still pretty dangerous for them to be here. It looks like a sage is attacking a robot that the people of this world call aggressors, and the battle is reshaping the landscape. Danara asks Yogiri if he can just kill them because they are in the way, but while Yogiri may be a killing machine, he still has rules that even he has to follow. He can't just go around killing people because they inconvenience him, and those guys didn't intentionally send the blast his way, so there would be no reason to kill them. But then again, the sage seems to be a piece of so Yogiri decides to kill him after all. Back with the vampire sage, the person that attacked has just blown away the entire castle, but with her innate healing ability, she was able to just tank the explosion. She did something terrible to this guy's lover, but once again, nobody cares about him, plus she's immortal, so she doesn't even bother killing him and just chucks him off the roof. She then instructs Edelgard to find Yogiri since she wants to figure out how he managed to kill all those thieves. Meanwhile, after Yogiri killed the sage, the robot does the smart thing and tries to negotiate things peacefully rather than fight. But it doesn't have anything that Yogiri wants. Instead, Danara gets something later that day. The vampire sage holds a meeting with Sion over the dead sage they just found near the train tracks, and she suspects that Yogiri might be behind this. Sion doesn't really care but leads her to do as she sees fit. So, the vampire sage calls on one of her subordinates and tells him to get the zombie army ready. Back to Yogiri and Danara, after a ton of walking, they can finally see the city of Hanabusa, which looks a lot like a Japanese city. While Dominar is still all peppy and full of energy, Yogiri is absolutely winded after the long journey. He's got a kill-death ratio that basically caused the extinction of the forest monsters and some bandits for good measure. After realizing she's been of no help at all this entire trip, Danara apologizes but asks that he tell her when they are in danger so she won't be acting so carefree and naive. Before they go, Danara asks if his being tired after using his ability means he has a limit to how many times it can be used, but Yogiri reassures her that he has no cooldown on it and the developers never patched it out, so he's free to spam instant death as much as he wants. They head into the city and are amazed by its futuristic appearance. As they walk through its streets, they come across a hotel that Celestina had suggested they use, so they decide to head in and stay for a while before they do anything else. Inside the hotel, they come across one of their classmates, Takabana, who greets them normally like he didn't abandon them to their doom. Danara asks why he is here since, from what they know, he should still be with the rest of the class in the forest. He responds, saying he split up from the rest of the group because he didn't agree with their inefficient methods of gaining levels. He had something much more beneficial for himself in mind: slavery. As soon as he got here, he learned that slaves were still a thing, so when asked how many he wanted, he said yes. These are the primary members of his harem: Erica, Stephanie, Chelsea, Euphemia, and Riza. These are quite the array of different girls, but they all have one thing in common: from now on, they hate Danara. Takabana tells them to shut up for a bit while he talks to his classmates, and while he does that, Yogiri tells Danara that he seems really confident, so he must have a strong ability of some kind. They still don't know what his ability is, but he has been like that since he was in high school. He had the ladies flocking to him, so he was always a bit of a narcissist, and he would switch girlfriends more like Dan Bilzerian. Takabana speaks up and says that since they've met here by chance, then would Danara like to become his slave, sorry, lover. She's petrified by the absurdity of his statement, but he assures her that it is fine since if she's worried about what will happen to Yogiri, while he usually doesn't swing that way, he'll make an exception for Yogiri as well. Neither of them can believe what they are hearing, so they ask what makes him so confident to make a request like that. Takabana reveals that he has the class of dominator, meaning he is able to absolutely dominate any weaker beings. That is a pretty powerful ability, but if Takabana is here, how does he intend to get stronger if all the others are busy training while he's lounging around here? But that isn't much of a problem for him since his ability is also broken. He explains that after the class had safely made it to the town and were celebrating, he was approached by one of his classmates, Haruto, who told him about the true nature of his ability. Haruto has the class of consultant, so he came to give Takabana some insight on what he should do from now on. Right now in the class, everyone is avoiding him because of his class of dominator, and Haruto doesn't want a fight to break out among them. So, he informs Takabana that the true power behind his ability is a pyramid scheme. He can go buy a bunch of cheap slaves and make them go out and fight for him. Then, if the slaves win, he gets experience and can make the defeated people become his slaves as well. So, his network of slavery will only keep on growing as time passes, and his XP gain will be exponential. That's certainly useful information, but the menu screen didn't have any information like that, so he questions how Haruto was able to figure this out. Haruto revealed that his ability allows him to see the hidden details of anyone's ability, but that still doesn't answer the question of why he's giving a free consultation like this. As a consultant, his chances of successfully becoming a sage are tied to the success of his classmates, so he wants everyone to do the best they can do to avoid ending up as livestock on the chopping block. That basically means that at this very moment, Takabana's number of slaves is rising, and he is gaining levels without having to do anything at all. So, he re-extends the offer and asks Danara to become his slave, but she still values her freedom. Takabana agrees to leave and says he will give her time to think about the proposal. At least he isn't being pushy about it, so he isn't much of a threat to them for now. But Yogiri points out that it might actually be safer for Danara if she were to go with him since she would be close to the top in the pyramid scheme. However, that's still not an option. It seems there's a lot going on with Yogiri and Danara's situation. Yogiri has been asleep for 3 days, leaving Danara to handle things by herself. However, trouble arises as a zombie army invades the city, and Danara finds herself targeted by someone she can't see. With Moko's warning, Danara calls Yogiri for help, and he quickly takes action, sensing the threat and eliminating it. Meanwhile, Takabana, having noticed Erica's sudden death, suspects foul play and investigates. Euphemia suggests that Erica might have been jealous of Danara and attempted to eliminate her. As they try to leave, Riza tries to stop them by using an ice spell to block their path, but Yogiri easily breaks the ice by commanding it to melt. He shows he's stronger by destroying Riza's wand and warns her that he can kill anything with just his thoughts. Riza, scared, admits she's a skilled wand master and gives him another wand she had hidden. She was ordered to capture Danara, but other servants got the same order. Danara almost gets attacked, but she fights back and gets her first while. Riza tries to use this distraction to attack, but Yogiri had warned her not to try anything sneaky, so he killed her. Only a little girl and her dolls are left to fight, but Yogiri easily destroys the dolls and goes to finish off the girl. Realizing the futility of resistance, Chelsea surrenders and provides Yogiri with valuable information. In a desperate move, Tachibana decides to unleash his last resort, a swarm of cockroaches. Despite their seemingly insignificant nature, this large number of cockroaches poses a serious threat, capable of causing suffocation or other deadly outcomes. However, before the attack can commence, Euphemia expresses concern about antagonizing someone with Yogiri's purported abilities. Undeterred, Tachibana insists on proceeding, driven by his desire to assert dominance as a dominator. As the cockroaches prepare to attack, Yogiri swiftly identifies Tachibana as the source of the killing intent and eliminates him instantly, thwarting the threat posed by the cockroach army. With Tachibana eliminated, the threat of the cockroach army dissipates, but the presence of the insects prompts Yogiri and Danara to vacate the room swiftly. Meanwhile, Stephanie and Euphemia remain with Tachibana's lifeless body. Euphemia, now liberated from Tachibana's influence, decides to depart. However, upon reaching the surface, she encounters a desolate wasteland where a once lush forest stood, now consumed by a massive darkness. In this bleak landscape, the vampire sage intercepts Euphemia, sinking her fangs into her and transforming her into a vampire. The sage seeks to extract information from Euphemia about the recent events, using her newfound vampiric abilities to compel her to divulge all she knows. As Yogiri and Danara emerge onto the streets, they are confronted with the dire reality of the zombie army they had previously disregarded. Meanwhile, the vampire sage, having turned Euphemia into a member of her bloodline, inquires about Yogiri's ability, intrigued by its rumored power to bring death to any target. She wonders if it could potentially end her own immortal life. In the besieged city, chaos reigns as panicked civilians experience the horrors of a zombie apocalypse firsthand. Meanwhile, Yogiri and Danara find refuge in an alleyway, strategizing their next steps amidst the chaos and uncertainty surrounding them. Yogiri assesses the situation, noting that the zombies are slow-moving, which gives them a chance to escape the city if they are cautious. Danara questions Yogiri's intentions, expressing concern for the safety of the city's inhabitants. However, Yogiri reaffirms his stance, emphasizing that he never intended to be a hero in this world. He admits that his main priority is protecting Danara, showing little concern for others. The mayor of the town is really mad because the leader of the undead army, Masayuki, came to town without warning and is hurting people for no reason. A vampire named Lady Lane gave Masayuki permission to control the area, so he thinks he can do whatever he wants. Masayuki tells Ryuta, who used to be his friend and fellow warrior, to calm down because they fought together in a battle. But Ryuta insists that Masayuki and his undead army leave the city right away. However, Masayuki says he has permission from Lady Lane to do whatever he wants, including hurting people to find someone named Yogiri. Ryuta has to give in because Lady Lane ordered it, so he gives Masayuki the key to the city. Masayuki then tells the zombies to stop attacking and gives the people of the city 1 hour to bring him Yogiri, and another person named Danara, either dead or alive. If they don't succeed, Masayuki threatens to kill them instead. He's made sure that no one can escape by locking the gates to the city. If people want to survive, they have to hurry up and start looking for the teenagers. Ryuta isn't happy that the citizens are being used like pawns in Masayuki's game, but there's nothing he can do because the boss lady said so. Now, people on the streets are running around like crazy trying to find Yogiri and Danara. They're even scarier than the zombies. Danara doesn't understand why they're being chased so much. Maybe it's because Yogiri killed one of the sages, which was a big deal. Killing people recklessly might cause more problems in the future. Just as Yogiri thinks this, 3 people come up behind him, ready to kill him to capture him. Yogiri warns them that he won't hesitate to kill anyone who attacks him, but they ignore him and attack anyway. As expected, Yogiri ends up killing one of them. The other 2 run away after seeing their friend killed so easily. Yogiri wonders why Masayuki thought the thugs would be useful in capturing him when he can kill anyone easily. Maybe Masayuki hoped Yogiri would have a moral code against killing civilians, but Yogiri doesn't have any weaknesses like that. Still, he doesn't like the idea of innocent people being used against him, so he decides it might be a good idea to negotiate with Masayuki personally. They both head to the town square to meet with Masayuki, and the place smells really bad, like death and decay. When they reach Masayuki, he's pretty upset that he didn't get to kill more people before Yogiri turned himself in. Masayuki asks if Yogiri plans to sacrifice himself for the citizens of the city, but Yogiri has a different plan. Masayuki doesn't think Yogiri has much choice since he's the one in power, but Yogiri wants to make a deal. He asks Masayuki to remove the barrier around the city in exchange for using the train to leave. Masayuki gets really angry and refuses, saying Yogiri has no right to ask for favors. Yogiri agrees to sweeten the deal by sparing Masayuki's life, even though he's not a nice person. But Masayuki doesn't appreciate the offer and orders his undead army to kill Yogiri. He thinks his army is immune to Yogiri's magic, but Yogiri tells them all to die. And somehow they do, for good this time. The smile on Masayuki's face fades. His soul left his body as he starts to wish he had taken Yogiri's initial offer. His immortal army has been defeated in an instant, and not wanting to be next in line, Ryuta throws his hands up and sells Masayuki out. Masayuki isn't even mad that Ryuta is ditching him, but what he wants to know is how something that is already dead could possibly be killed. It's all simple really. You say they are dead, but they were still moving, so Yogiri considers them to still be alive. And if that doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't matter because this is Yogiri's world and I am the world, and he gets to decide what dead means. Masayuki can't stand for such absurdity and begins to transform so he can fight Yogiri at full power. But Armik is Giga Chad, so he doesn't play by the rules and just kills him before he can finish transforming. There's still the problem of needing to take down the barrier around the city, but that shouldn't be a problem as Ryuta seems more than happy to do whatever Yogiri asks of him. He pleads with Yogiri to spare his life, but Yogiri never intended to kill him anyway, as he only ever kills in self-defense. Ryuta explains that Masayuki was ordered by the vampire sage Lane to kill Yogiri. The city and the surrounding area are controlled by Lane, so is her subordinate. Masayuki was put in charge of looking after the city. That's a bit confusing to them since they got called here by sign to become sages, and now they are being hunted down by another sage. Just then, Moko appears and informs the two that some spiritual manipulation was targeted at this area. And all of a sudden, all the citizens of the city now have killing intent directed towards Yogiri and Danara. If it's a spiritual attack making the citizens act like this, then maybe the barrier could block it out. But as Ryuta tries to use the key to change the barrier settings, he finds that he has been locked out of the controls, which could only mean that Lane has taken it over and is the one behind this. From a great distance away, Lane is carrying out her plan. But Euphemia tells her that what she's doing is really risky. Lane already knows that Yogiri was able to kill Takabana over a long distance by tracing his control of the cockroaches. And with power like that, he's already far above the power of any sage. That's exactly why Euphemia believes they should just let him do his thing and step aside. The mind-controlled people begin attacking Yogiri one by one, and he is forced to continuously kill them as they attack. He has had something like this happen to him before, where one guy tried a bunch of things just to see how Yogiri would react to them. But in the end, he can always just kill them all if it comes down to it. Ryuta is having a really hard time seeing all of his precious citizens dropping like flies right in front of his eyes. Meanwhile, Lane is still doing her thing outside the city, and as that darkness monster from before is approaching, it works out in her favor because now she can cause Yogiri's death without any direct killing intent against him. She decides now is a good time to put her backup plan into action and duplicates her body several times in the sky. In the city, the darkness has arrived within the city borders, and it is turning everything that it comes in contact with into sand, heading straight for them. At the same time, Lane explains that she created her clones with all information about Yogiri being removed from their brains. So with no knowledge of who Yogiri is, there should be no way for them to hold any hostility towards him, and thus Yogiri shouldn't be able to kill them. She decides to use the darkness as a cue to begin her attack, ordering the clones to carpet bomb the city once the darkness dies, as she expects Yogiri to be able to kill it. In the city, people watch in horror as the darkness tears through the architecture, leaving nothing but dust in its wake. They believe there's nothing anyone can do to stop it, but Yogiri could definitely do something if he wanted to. He has a bad feeling about this, but at the same time, he can't leave that thing to just kill everyone, so he decides to confront it. After the darkness kills, Lane's carpet bombing strategy takes effect and more destruction rains down upon the city. Yogiri can see the attack, but he can't sense any hostility, almost as though something is just attacking the city indiscriminately. This must be the work of whoever was testing him with the civilians. While Yogiri is analyzing the situation intensely, he gets distracted by Danara's presence, which reminds him what he is fighting for. So he gets up to solve the problem, but that's easier said than done since he doesn't know where the attacks are coming from. Danara looks up and sees something unexpected. The bombs hitting the city are actually all the clones of Lane sacrificing themselves into the ground. They realize that this is Lane's countermeasure against Yogiri's instant death, and he can't really do much about it since she isn't targeting him directly, and the copies are blowing themselves up so fast that he can't even see them. Ayaka destroys the floor, and as the other 4 witches lie defeated on the ground, his ability class is a mayor, so he's able to see everything in the town at once and uses the information he has to find out the next place that will get bombarded. He then teleports them all there, and as the clone is about to hit them, Yogiri makes it die before prompting Moko to use her guardian spirit Jazz to create a shield around them. The shield was some protective plating that can be worn under clothing, but thanks to Moko's guardian spirit thing, she is able to turn it into anything from a shield to a suit of armor. Finally, Danara isn't dead weight anymore. All of Lane's clones have been defeated, and Euphemia is telling her that she messed up when she decided to go after Yogiri. But she still doesn't see the problem since she can just create more clones to attack again. Just then, the full scope of the instant death hits, and Lane realizes her mistake. Still, she didn't want to die anyway. Elsewhere, a little girl wakes up from a nap in a coffin and receives a pre-recorded message from Lane, telling her that she is a copy of her that was made to be its own separate person. This was done to avoid attacks from Yogiri, but we'll get back to that later. As Yogiri and Danara are about to set off from the city, now that they've received some transportation from Ryuta. Meanwhile, we finally get to see what the other students have been up to. We meet Ruko, who is a samurai class. After defeating a monster, she enters her tent where a girl called Carol is standing. Carol stole Ruko's phone because she wanted to get a look at the app she had for monitoring Yogiri. It seems they were both tasked with spying on him back on Earth. But as they check the monitor, they are greeted with horrifying news. Yogiri's first gate is open, and Danara has been put in charge of driving the jeep. However, from the way they nearly died right there, it's clear that she doesn't know a damn thing about driving. So she wants to switch with Yogiri, but he's already fast asleep, so it looks like she's on her own for this one. Since she wasn't paying attention, Danara is about to crash into a boulder on the road while Yogiri is having a wonderful dream involving a woman. We get a little backstory of who this woman is, and she is seen signing a contract for a job interview. She finds it a little concerning that there's a death waiver involved, but she's in too deep to back out now, and those bills aren't going to pay themselves, so she goes along with it. She asks if this is some kind of organization, but her employer assures her that everything that goes on here is mostly legal. He tells her that this facility researches curses, so her job will be to take care of a monster. She has led down a creepy red hallway and asks where they are heading, so the employer informs her that she is tasked with looking after a being whom they have dubbed Alpha Omega from the description given. Asaka wonders if it might be a human, but the employer doesn't really know as he has never risked seeing the thing for himself. Alpha Omega has the frightening ability to kill anything just by thinking about it, so they brought in Asaka to be its teacher. It's already dangerous enough as it is, but imagine a toddler with no sense of right or wrong having that kind of power. That's where Asaka comes in. But if you're wondering why she was selected for this dangerous job, it's because she's the only one who showed up. They get to the bottom of the elevator, so the employer hands her a piece of paper and tells her, "You're on your own now," before leaving her to deal with a being she's got no other choice than to go in. But they shouldn't blame her if the world gets doomed because of something she did. She enters a room that has an artificial environment being generated and walks over to the house illustrated on the incredibly well-drawn map. Once there, she calls out to see if anyone is home and eventually comes across a little boy in the center room. She was anxious before, but now she's just enraged by the fact that the government locked up a child in this underground base. She's not going to stand around and let this kid become a meat, so she forcibly drags him outside and throws him into the creek so he can play for once. Yogiri looks stunned for a moment, but then points his finger at Asaka and kills a monster that was hiding behind her. There's no concrete answer on what that thing was, but things like that show up from time to time and try to kill him. They probably got in by hiding in her shadow, but it's dead now, so there's no reason to be worried anymore. Yogiri speaks up and says he would love to play, but it's getting really late now, so it would be better if they did that tomorrow. Asaka realizes she may have gotten a little carried away, and apologizes before finally introducing herself to him. But more importantly, Yogiri tells her he's hungry, and it finally sets in that she is the adult in the room, so she's got to cook. In the kitchen, there is a fully stocked pantry, but all that is useless if you got no cooking skills. She really needs to get something ready before Yogiri gets out of the bath though, so she goes for the broke college student classic, a cup of ramen. Luckily for her, Yogiri has never tasted ramen before, so he is really happy with his dinner. While he eats, Asaka thinks of a name for him. She ultimately decides to name him after a dog, which was how he got the name Yogiri. From this moment on, she takes on the role of being his mother figure and taking care of him. These were fond memories for Yogiri, but he is woken up when Danira yells that the road to the capital is blocked. She is surprised that he can sleep through her reckless driving, but he can't help it since he's tired from killing all those zombies back in the city. Besides, he doesn't even understand why they need to head to the capital in the first place. After all, their end goal is to get back to their original world, and to do that, they are trying to find the Sage Shane. So, even if they don't head to the capital, there should still be other ways available to locate her. With that in mind, they decide to turn around and find another way past this mountain. But as Danira is backing up, she accidentally rams into a dragon that was standing behind them. They get out to assess the situation, but the dragon attacks, leaving Yogiri with no choice but to kill it. However, that wasn't the only dragon, as there was a whole flock of them, and they are all honed in and ready to blast them clean off the face of the earth with fire. Unfortunately for them, they were up against Yogiri, so moments later, they all dropped dead. They were forced to wipe out an entire population of dragons. But if you think about it, this is dragon territory, so Yogiri just pulled up and committed mass genocide in their front lawn. However, things aren't over yet as a golden thunder dragon soon appears. However, the gold dragon doesn't seem to have any killing intent aimed at them, so Yogiri sees no reason to kill it. After a few moments, the dragon says they can pass and then tries to fly away in a hurry so it doesn't get killed. Since the dragon can talk, Yogiri calls it back under threat of being killed, and they are introduced to this little girl. Danira wonders why the huge dragon turned into this little girl. But don't let the details bother you right now. Yogiri asks the important question of why the dragons attacked him and Danira in the first place. The girl explains that they were trying to test if Yogiri was worthy of meeting the swordmaster, but he has no idea who the swordmaster is. The dragon can't believe they came all the way out here with no intention of meeting the master, but they just want to get to the capital, so there's no reason to take a detour now. The dragon pleads with them to follow her to the master since her job was to bring promising individuals to him, so she can't return empty-handed after losing her entire dragon army. The swordmaster is supposedly on equal terms with a sage, so Yogiri agrees to meet him since he might have some clues on how they can return to their original world. Plus, they were kind of stuck here anyway. The dragon promises that if they come with her to meet the swordmaster, then she will personally take them to the capital. She introduces herself as Attila and guides them to the location of the swordmaster. When they arrive, they find a lot of people standing around, as they are also here to meet the swordmaster and have a chance at becoming the next divine king. One of the guys there thinks it must be against the rules to come here by car since everyone else had to walk, but the swordmaster himself says he has no problem with it. You may think the swordmaster is a nice guy, but you'd be wrong, as the first order of business after he arrives is for everyone to kill each other until there are less than half remaining. Yogiri didn't even want to come here in the first place, so he asks if he can just go since he isn't going to participate. Thus, the swordmaster makes up a rule that no one is allowed to escape, and the bloodshed begins as the participants start killing each other. As some people begin to target him, Yogiri sees no choice other than to defend himself, but this time he doesn't need to, as someone steps in to protect him and Danira from danger. This guy seems to actually be pretty decent, but he is praising the swordmaster way too much. He says there is no way the swordmaster would ever actually want them to kill one another, so it must have just been a test to see if they would act dishonorably just because he said so. However, Yogiri notices some magicians casting an ominous spell in the background, so he deals with them. The good knight continues the praise, suggesting that the swordmaster must have killed the magicians for not acting honorably. They also notice a guy who was cosplaying as Gojo that was bisected, but he's still alive and kicking, so he asks Danira to put that rainbow-colored stone in his hand. She's freaked out but does as he says, and as he holds the gem, he returns to his unharmed body. The swordmaster has had enough killing for one day, so he tells everyone to stop and follow him because he is continuing the test elsewhere. Attila pleads with Yogiri to keep going along with the trial because if he wins and becomes the next divine king, then she will get a promotion and become his attendant. Since they haven't gotten any information yet, they see no harm in continuing with the trial for the meantime. But this is getting more annoying than Yogiri would have hoped. They follow the swordmaster, and along the way, the knight who helped them introduces himself as Rick. The bisected one is called Lonel. And now that introductions are out of the way, Yogiri asks what the big deal is about becoming the divine king. Rick explains that the divine king was a person who sealed away the dark god long ago, but even though the dark god is sealed, it is still a threat as there are many people working to revive him. Meanwhile, in the back, Danira asks Lonel what that stone was that healed him. He explains that these are a apolog that can heal serious injuries and also be used for GEA games. He has always had terrible luck since he was born, so he would always end up in terrible situations. And more recently, he ended up getting sacrificed by a weird cult. He thought he was dead for sure, but then a goddess appeared who is hot as f***, giving him apology gems to make up for his terrible life. Aside from injuries, he can also trade the gems for random items. But with his bad luck, he ends up just getting a brush. He used up most of his crystals on that one, but he gets new ones every midnight depending on how bad his luck for the day was. The rest of the group disappears into a barrier, and as they follow, they find themselves before a huge tower. Attila seems to have been left behind due to the barrier, so it seems like only those that are participating in the trial can enter. They enter the tower and head up to the top where the swordmaster shows them the seal created by the last divine king, holding hundreds of monsters and the dark god. Danira can see a girl in the middle stabbing herself along with the dark god. One other participant, Frederica, tries to launch an attack at the dark god to kill it once and for all. But the barrier slows down time, so it may take hundreds of years for the attack to finally reach. And One Piece might have ended by then. The goal for the night selection exam is for them to accumulate 100 points before they get to the ground, and they can't cheat by jumping off the side of the tower either. Danira wonders if Yogiri's power would work on the dark god even with the time delay, but he looks like he feels guilty about something. He usually has a rule about not killing things unless he has a reason to do so, but Yogiri was feeling a little off from all the miasma in the area, so he wanted to see if he could find the source and get rid of it. This means he already killed the Dark Lord in the time bubble. Now that they basically made this whole test pointless by killing the Dark Lord, Yogiri wants to get out of there before anyone figures out what he has done. But before they leave, Lionel hears his name called out by the entitled girl that dragged him into this competition in the first place. She is demanding that he hand over some of his apology so she can replenish her mana before the test begins, and he complies but tells her that the apology do not work for anyone other than him. She leaves Lionel behind, and after picking up his gem, the team can finally get moving. Thankfully, since they were delayed, the people who went ahead have kindly and involuntarily showcased all the traps that were set in the tower. So now their job should be much easier since they just have to avoid triggering the remaining traps in the tower. It shouldn't be too hard, but then again, they've got Lionel on their team. Immediately after Rick had warned everyone to be careful, he steps on a magic circle and gets his chest impaled. Thankfully, he still has some crystals left, so he is able to recover from the severe damage he just took. Since this keeps happening so often, Danira suggests that he just keeps one crystal in his hand at all times. Now confident that he should be safe, he goes running into an unexplored room by himself, and from the sound of the blood-curdling scream coming from him, I don't think he's having a good time in there. Rick runs in after him and finds a woman called Teresa standing in the middle of the blood-covered room. Rick can't believe she would do something like this since she's meant to be one of the Knights of the Divine King. But this is well within what she would usually do, especially since this is how you're supposed to gain points in this tower. In fact, she ended up killing so many people just for the hell of it that she got her title as a knight stripped from her. So since she is currently unemployed, she decided to try her hand at becoming the Divine King as well, and it's a little bonus that she gets to kill as many people as she likes. Rick tells the others to get out of there as soon as possible, but Danira tells him they can't move because there are currently dozens of wires strung up all across the room. Teresa is impressed she managed to figure that out before they could fall for the trap. But regardless, that won't save them. Rick puts himself in the front line and tells the others that he will keep Teresa at bay while they find a way to get out of there. However, Teresa has no intention of letting any of them get out of there alive. As she starts striking at Rick with her threads, she proves to be a strong opponent, and Rick is doing well to keep up with her attacks thus far. However, Danira can tell that Teresa is still holding back, so if she gets serious, he may be unable to handle her. However, it's never going to come to that, as Yogiri tells her shut the fuck up bitch and she dies. Teresa is immediately on her way to the afterlife. Now that she's dead, they remember they had a guy named Len with them, and Yogiri finds his severed hand on the ground. It's pretty unlucky that he got his hand with a crystal chopped off, but at least he is still alive. The group heads down and has now made it to the 98th floor of the tower, where they are informed that this place counts as a safe zone. They are free to rest while they are here, and there are even rooms provided for them. Yogiri suggests that since this place is safe, they can split up and do their own things for a while. Rick is okay with splitting up, but he asks if Yogiri and Danira will be alright by themselves. They say they are fine, and Lionel agrees as well, since he has run out of apology for the day. And if he leaves this place without one, he may die for real this time. Since everyone is in agreement, Rick says he will be going on ahead, and Lionel gets ready so he can barricade himself for survival. Yogiri asks Danara if she would like to rest for a while, but unfortunately, there is currently only one room available in the safe zone, and you know what that means. Danara gets nervous and reminds Yogiri that Moko is still here and she will be able to see if anything happens. He tells him to shut up, and Moko tells him I don't have any problem. Yogiri wastes no time in taking off his clothes. I know guys what you are thinking, but he has just wanted to change and go to sleep. Meanwhile, mid-mag has finally come, so after nearly dying 15 times today, Lionel receives his next batch of apology and gets a great deal on them as well. He received 100 apologies and a guaranteed ultra-rare Gasa. He is excited and goes for the Gasa pull immediately, but instead of a weapon or armor of some sort, he gets a woman. He thinks he has won the lottery, but this is the goddess that brought him to this world. But she's not here to join him in his adventurous night. Lionel gets upset, and even I was also upset, guys. She just wanted to pop in and see if he is still alive. She also tells him that she updated his save point, so now no matter how many times he dies, he will always respawn here. She then disconnects from the body and vanishes, and Lionel has a lone night like me. Tell me in the comment guys if you are alone in night or not. Meanwhile, in the tower control center, the homunculus girl informs the master that there is a problem. From their calculations, the number of souls that the tower has collected doesn't match the number of people that have died. However, he doesn't see it as that big of an issue since they still have more than enough souls available to run the barrier. Another point of concern is that they will also need to replenish their stock of half-demons who power the barrier. Elsewhere, we see a blue-haired girl running through a field with explosions happening around her. She points out that it is rude to attack someone on sight when you don't even know what they want yet, but the guy is already well aware that she is here to recruit him. The girl was indeed asked to recruit him and was given orders to kill anyone who refused to join, so she makes sure she has the right person by scanning him with her eye. The guy is called Seidu, and he used his gift to build this colony and live a peaceful life here. He doesn't want that messed up by AI, so he uses his power to attack her with a bunch of tentacles. Unfortunately for him, AI has hacks built in since none of his abilities are working. Seidu takes out his sword, which has a high Luke stat on it, so her ability can't affect it. But that just means she has to avoid getting hit by Seidu's sword, and she does so quite effortlessly before holding him at knife point and slitting his throat. She then gets a message from her talking knife, informing her that she's got another job to complete and needs to head to the city of Hanabusa in order to take out AI. She's annoyed that she doesn't even get to catch her breath but starts heading out to complete the mission. But before she goes, a face she never thought she'd see again shows up. Hanakawa somehow managed to survive in the forest for a while, and he was eventually saved by Seidu, who took him in and let him live in his barony. However, now that AI has killed him, there's no one left to protect this place, so he desperately wants to go with her. Back to Yogiri and Danara. Danara was still sleeping when Mocha started calling for her to wake up. She opens her eyes and finds Yogiri's face buried in her chest, though it's not intentional since he is still asleep. However, that wasn't the reason Mocha woke her up. It was because she is stuck in the wall. Mocha had been watching them sleep earlier when Yogiri started hugging Danara in his sleep, and thinking some action was about to happen, she went into the wall to avoid interrupting anything. But then she got curious and tried to take a peek, and now she's slowly getting sucked into the wall due to a mechanism in the tower that captures spirits. Yogiri finally wakes up and asks if he can do anything to save her, but Danara has already given up and thanks Mocha for all the time they spent together. Since Mocha was being sucked into the wall, Yogiri walks up to it and locates the mechanism causing the suction. Then he disables it, which somehow works. Mocha is relieved that she managed to survive, despite being dead for centuries. She wonders about the reason behind the tower sucking up souls. Yogiri isn't sure, but after all that has happened, he tells Danara that she needs to be ready because he's going to kill anybody who even remotely seems like a threat from this point onward. Danara already knew they would need to kill people who try to harm them, and she's thankful to Yogiri for always protecting her, which makes Yogiri blush. Meanwhile, AI is approaching Yogiri and the others in the tower, but they encounter the dragon. Hanakawa thinks they should run away, but AI doesn't see it as a big deal and comments that she doesn't think a dragon that big should be able to fly. Immediately after she says that, the dragon falls to the ground. AI's ability doesn't just cause a forceful impact, it literally alters reality to match her beliefs. So, no matter how delusional she is, she's always right. However, if her opponent has good luck, then she can't use her ability on them. The dragon remains a threat, but it gets beheaded by an aggressor who gathers intel from it before heading into the barrier. Decide to follow it, with Hanako reluctantly dragged along. Meanwhile, Yogiri and Donora continue to progress through the tower by overcoming challenges. However, the creator of the tower becomes enraged and personally intervenes to stop them. He explains that the tower was created to maintain the barrier and keep the Dark Lord sealed, so he can't allow it to be destroyed. Yogiri offers to stop destroying the tower if they are let out, but the creator, Egilja, isn't willing to negotiate. Before Egilja can threaten them, Yogiri him. Continuing through the tower, they encounter two swordsmen dueling in a stadium and a man named Misaki sitting on a throne, which he must have carried all the way there. One of the fighters, a girl battling a bunny, is revealed to be a half-demon. But Yogiri chooses not to intervene and simply requests to pass through the exit peacefully. However, Misaki, full of arrogance, refuses to let them go without a fight. As Misaki calls out his servants to fight, Yogiri swiftly dispatches them all, including Misaki himself. Impressed by Yogiri's power, the demon girl requests to join him. The girl named Theodisia pretends to be a swordsman named Guys to sneak into a tower. She is searching for her missing sister, who disappeared recently. She heard her people were getting imprisoned in the tower, so she wants Yogiri's help to find her sister. However, going against the swordmaster could be risky, so she understands if they don't want to help. Yogiri and Danara have been breaking down the tower, making themselves enemies of the swordmaster. Despite this, Yogiri agrees to help but warns Theodisia not to rely too much on him. Theodisia appreciates his offer but knows they need clues to find her sister. She can sense something underground, so they plan to start their search there. Rick, Frederica, and Lionel join them unexpectedly, having made it far without getting hurt. They all go to the next room where the swordmaster is waiting. He's about to announce the next Divine King because one candidate passed the trials. However, before he can do that, he's interrupted by the Homequell who have come with terrible news. The tower suddenly goes silent, as if commanded to stop functioning. The first barrier is weakening, and the second one is unstable, leaving them vulnerable to the Dark Lord's forces. A bright light breaks through the tower, destroying the power source and the first barrier. The Swordmaster, realizing someone is behind this, prepares for battle as a powerful entity descends upon the former tower. The Swordmaster calls upon the candidates for help to defeat this threat, warning that humanity is in danger. Meanwhile, Yogiri suggests searching underground while everyone is distracted. Danara questions why Yogiri won't intervene, but Yogiri believes it's not his problem and defeating the entity would attract unwanted attention. Lionel considers leaving with Yogiri, but Rick and Frederica choose to stay and fight, unwilling to back down. They prepare for battle as the situation intensifies. The Dark Angel lands and demands to know how to break the barrier holding the Dark Lord. The Swordmaster refuses to give up the information easily. The Dark Angel doesn't care about the Swordmaster's stubbornness and threatens to kill everyone until someone talks. People start getting hurt as the Dark Angel electrocutes them. So the ninja and the group tried to stop him by rushing forward and creating shadow clones, but it didn't work. The angel electrocuted them all before they could even touch him. Then, Federica decides to take action. She charges up a powerful blast, but it gets absorbed by the Dark Angel. This impresses a boy who didn't expect such power from a human like Federica. The homunculus warns the Swordmaster about the boy being abnormal too, but the Swordmaster insists they have names, loot, and Organe. Federica ignores the warning and still wants to defeat the Dark Angel. However, when she tries to attack again, she realizes how much stronger the angel is. He easily stops her attack with just 2 fingers. Federica tries to back off to create some distance for another attempt, but then she notices something shocking: her arm is missing. Lot, one of the beings present, has turned her arm into candy and starts beating his body left and right on the bed. Sorry guys, I mean eating it right in front of her. Rick steps in and attacks Lot with his sword, finding it more effective than magic but still not enough to pose a real challenge. He urges Lionel to take Frederica to safety, but just then he receives a notification about a guaranteed ultra-rare gacha available. He decides to take his chances and uses all his resources to see what he can get. As the music stops playing, he summons the haughty goddess again. Rate this haughty guys, tell him to commence. He's unsure if she'll be helpful since she only checked on him last time, but now she seems serious about joining the fight. The subordinates they're fighting aren't even the strongest ones, so the goddess should be able to handle them easily. They were excited, thinking the goddess would defeat the Dark Angel. However, they're shocked when Organe starts kneeling to her and Lute hugs her, as they haven't seen each other for a long time. It turns out that meeting the goddess was one of the worst things that could have happened, as her ultimate goal is to destroy all of humanity. I think guys, they all are f***ed. Meanwhile, Yogiri and the others have been descending downstairs for a long time, but it doesn't seem like they're making any real progress toward their goal. It feels like they're stuck in an endless loop meant to protect something ahead. As they continue walking, Theo suddenly senses some magic from her people. She asks Shiri if he can destroy the mechanism keeping them stuck, but he's hesitant because it might be important. However, moments later, an unexplained slash cuts through it, breaking the loop. Yogiri doesn't know what happened, but since they didn't have to break the barrier themselves, he's fine with it. They head into the basement to find Theo's people, but as they've learned, basements often hold terrifying things. In this case, they find a pile of living sludge that used to be Theo's people. They were likely transformed so their magic could be drained from them. Despite the horror, Theo is relieved that her sister isn't among them. She puts them out of their misery with her sword. Danira asks what they'll do next. Yogiri suggests they return to the surface for now and decide their next move based on the situation. He asks Theo what she wants to do, and now that she's seen what happened, she vows to kill the swordmaster herself. Back on the surface, the swordmaster appoints Rick as his successor in case anything happens to him. He trusts Rick to use the power stored inside the tower if needed. Lionel feels guilty for bringing the goddess here when her goal is to wipe out humanity. Even if he dies, he'll respawn at the last safe point. So, he takes a risk and asks the goddess why she's doing this. They had a good relationship, so she explains that her boyfriend, the Dark Lord, disappeared without a word. She sent messengers to find him and learned he was sealed away here. Unable to defeat the Swordmaster, she thought sending someone as unlucky as Lionel might change things. Lionel never realized his luck was so bad that a god would use him to destroy humanity. To make matters worse, she uses a magic mirror to check on potential threats, finding they died mysteriously. Feeling confident, she removes the barrier's core to revive her beloved. Just as she's about to crush it, Yogiri and the others return to the surface. They arrive just in time to stop the goddess from breaking the barrier core, causing it to crumble instead. However, instead of a happy reunion, the Dark Lord falls to the ground because Yogiri killed him earlier, leaving everyone in shock. While everyone is confused, Theo seizes the opportunity to sneak up behind the Swordmaster and decapitate him in revenge for what he did to her people. Simultaneously, the mysterious invader who previously attacked stabs the goddess to gather information while she's in shock. Although the stabbing isn't fatal, it leaves her mentally shattered after losing her beloved. The rest of the Dark Lord's followers prepare to retaliate against humans for their leader's death. Sensing the impending danger, Yogiri instructs Theo and Danira to hold onto him for a moment. He then uses his ability to eliminate all of the Dark Lord's followers. As for why he asked Theo and Danira to hold onto him, it was simply because he wanted to experience the moment with them. After all the subordinates are dead, Danira wonders if they should do something about the goddess who is firing blasts indiscriminately. She's gone insane but holds no hostility towards Yogiri, so he sees no reason to kill her. Meanwhile, AI is dragging Hanekawa towards the former tower while dodging the goddess's blasts. He just wants to go home, approaches the group taking the brunt of the goddess's attacks and asks if they've seen Yogiri. Rick acknowledges knowing Yogiri but suggests now isn't the best time to look for him as they're busy. Rara decides to help finish the battle first to find Yogiri sooner. She scans Rick and relays that he has become the new Swordmaster, so he should have the power to kill the goddess. Rick lunges forward and manages to stab the goddess, finishing her off. Now that the battle is over, Rara resumes searching for Yogiri. It doesn't take long before she spots him through the dust. However, when she scans him, she regrets coming here. The scan gives her intense nausea, revealing Yogiri as the end of all things in the form of a man. Overwhelmed, she starts throwing up, and when Yogiri asks if she's alright, she's too scared to approach him. She quickly makes an excuse about delivering Hanekawa and leaves, leaving Hanekawa behind to fend for himself. After everything, only a few people are left alive. There are many things Rick would like to ask about, starting with Theo, who sliced off the Swordmaster's head mid-fight. She says what she did is justified and has nothing to do with him. However, since Rick is now the new Swordmaster after the previous one's death, he feels somewhat involved. Yogiri suggests Rick go take a look in the basement to see what the old Swordmaster was doing behind closed doors. If Rick still wants to go after Theo after that, Yogiri will side with her. Rick doesn't understand what Yogiri thinks he can do since he hasn't seen Yogiri fight yet. However, the Divine King chastises Rick for his ignorance and informs him that Yogiri was the one who killed the Dark Lord and all his subordinates. Yogiri's power is immeasurable, so Rick understands that if Yogiri says Theo was justified, he can't argue. Rick asks what their plans are now, and Theo says she will keep looking for her sister, Euphemia. Yogiri and Danira remember hearing that name back in Hanabusa, so they decide to head there first. Meanwhile, Yogiri and Danira will be heading to the royal capital. Rick provides them with 2 pendants that should allow them entry without any issues. With that settled, they set off on their next journey, leaving Hanakawa behind once again. Elsewhere, Sion receives news that AI has gone off the grid after encountering Yogiri. She's starting to get curious about learning what Yogiri really is, so she decides to summon someone who knew him from Earth. She summons a random scientist and asks him about Yogiri. When the guy learns that she brought Yogiri to this world, he thanks her for potentially saving all of humanity on Earth. Unfortunately, since Yogiri has been using his ability here, it triggers a code red on the scientist's device, which causes his head to explode. This leaves Sion more confused than ever about Yogiri's origins. Back on the bus where the students first arrived, one of the students wakes up and begins hearing a computer voice playing in her head. It informs her that there isn't much time left, so she's going to have to bear with it and accept the information it's about to explain. She's apparently an artificial human, and her body consists of several units that work together. The personality unit is currently in control of the body as it has the highest authority among them. So, she's the one who gets to make decisions on what they do from here. Ayaka's body has limitations placed on it to imitate a human, but the hole in her chest is incompatible with life. So, she can either choose to keep being human or take the limiters off and stay alive. She never even liked any of her classmates to begin with, so she obviously doesn't want to die because of them and agrees to release the limiters. With the limits broken, her body will be able to repair itself, but she's going to need a lot of organic material to do so. It just so happens that there is a dragon corpse lying outside the bus. She hesitantly grabs a chunk of flesh, but after taking one bite, she realizes it's not actually that bad. We get another flashback to Yogiri's time with Asaka, and she was really struggling to prepare a family meal with the cooking skills of a broke college student. Whatever it was she tried to make, a dog would not approve in the slightest, and neither does Yogiri, as he tells her straight up that her food is trash. She can't handle being roasted by a 7-year-old, so she yells at him that he needs to say the food is delicious no matter what when a girl cooks for him, otherwise he'll never get any pussy. This is pro technique by a girl, write this down guys. Yogiri doesn't really get what she's talking about, but she just tells him to say her food is delicious even if he doesn't think it is. He says it's delicious, but that lie doesn't make her feel any better because deep down she knows her cooking skills are f***ing bad. Yogiri ends up finishing the trace of a meal, and now that food has been taken care of, Asaka looks at the list and sees her next task is to teach him some elementary school stuff. She's getting fed up with the amount of work she has to do for this job, and she doesn't even get a bonus for it. She resigns herself to her fate and begins teaching Yogiri how to write. When she suddenly hears the sound of someone approaching, Yogiri isn't too bothered by it since he knows it is probably just the porter that brings supplies every once in a while. She goes to check and finds that the porter is actually a robot that they send down here because all the people are too scared to. Upon realizing this, Asaka asks for some elementary school equipment and a cookbook so she can learn to improve her cooking skills, along with some entertainment items. With that taken care of, she goes back over to check on Yogiri and decides he has worked hard enough for the day, so she says it's time for a break to play outside. They get outside, and Asaka still can't wrap her head around how this place has such a wonderful view but is actually located underground. Yogiri is having fun playing in the artificial nature here, but Asaka can't help but worry that she won't make it out alive of this place for some reason. As the month ends, Asaka is set to give her report on what has been going on with Yogiri. The scientist applauds her for successfully surviving a whole month on the job as this is an all-time record. She complains that she has finished teaching him elementary schoolwork, but anything higher is beyond her level of expertise. However, the scientist assures her that it will be fine since they can just use a remote education system for that. Asaka was hoping to get an actual person to teach Yogiri, but while that would have been ideal, it's not exactly easy to fill the position when you have to sign a death waiver to take the job. The scientist asks if she isn't happy with her current working conditions, and she's obviously dissatisfied after being locked in there for a month. But the scientist knows just the thing to persuade her and drops a fat stack of cash on the table. Once Asaka opens it, all the dissatisfaction immediately leaves her body. There is still the issue of not being able to use the money while she's stuck down there, but she's free to take a break from work whenever she wishes. It was in the contract, but they thought she would die early or resign before she would ever need to take a break, so they forgot to mention it to her. Asaka is a little worried about who will take care of Yogiri while she's gone, but he should be fine with just the robots as long as she's only gone for a few days. She is just now realizing that there were robots who could have been cooking for them this entire time, so there was no reason for her to learn how to cook. But at least after the past month, her cooking isn't as bad as it initially was. Asaka decides to take the break right now and slams the paperwork on the table. We later see her napping on a bed, but when she wakes up, she isn't familiar with this location at all. She tries to remember what she was doing before she blacked out, which was some shopping, more shopping, and even more shopping before ending off the night by getting the best room available in a hotel. That was an amazing night, but that doesn't explain how she ended up here. She thinks she may have been abducted, and a voice tells her that she is correct about that assumption. She was indeed kidnapped, but there's no need to worry because they are nice kidnappers and have no intention of harming or harvesting her organs. Obviously, that doesn't sound very reassuring, but the voice goes on to state that they are an organization that seeks to save the world by sealing away the danger, so they would just like her to answer some questions for them. Meanwhile, back in Yogiri's confinement base, he notices that Asaka has been gone for a while, so he asks one of the robots what happened to her. The robot informs him that she is currently on a leave of absence, but he wonders when she will be back. Feeling a bit lonely, he decides to go outside and look for her himself. First, he asks another one of the robots if it knows where she went, but it doesn't have access to that information. Yogiri then asks who would have information about Asaka and is informed that the researchers would likely know. The robot really sold out the entire facility and leads Yogiri to the door that will allow him to go outside. However, it explains that this door cannot be opened from the inside since it is remote controlled. So, Yogiri just calls out to the scientists that are watching in the cameras and tells them to open the door. Some time passes, and the lead researcher makes it to the room only to find that all except one woman are dead. The woman was the only one who listened to Yogiri and opened the doors. But when the other scientists tried to stop her, they were all killed in an instant. Right now, the woman is currently opening every door Yogiri asks her to, with tears in her eyes because she doesn't want to die and the lead researcher can't stop her. Yogiri never thought he would be able to kill people even when he can't directly see them. But since things have come to this, he tells the guard standing behind him to shoot the woman that is opening the doors. However, before he could even take aim, Yogiri had already put him out of commission, and he dropped to the ground. The lead researcher has nothing more he can do, so as Yogiri walks up to him and asks where Asaka is, he answers the question. She's currently on leave, but he doesn't think she will be coming back anytime soon because she was abducted by a certain organization. Yogiri asks why they haven't tried to save her yet, but this facility is unable to challenge that organization because they are too powerful. If that is the case, Yogiri says he'll just go and save her himself, but he also tells him to not mention all the people that died here today to Asaka when she gets back. And the next thing we know, chaos erupts all over that organization's base as Yogiri makes his way in, taking down all the soldiers who tried to stop him. The heads of the organization aren't surprised that their foot soldiers weren't enough to stop him, as they believe Yogiri can kill anything that he looks at. But that just means their job is to kill him before he can even look at them. Unfortunately, they were wrong about the conditions of Yogiri's ability. Once all the snipers had gotten into position and were ready to fire, they all dropped dead before their fingers could even get close to the trigger. Meanwhile, Asaka is still in her holding cell, wishing she had applied for a more normal job. She's also worried about Yogiri's well-being since she can't be there to look after him. Just then, she hears explosions from the chaos happening outside and thinks this might be a good opportunity to escape while everyone is in a state of confusion. But as she heads for the door, the head of the organization comes in and points a gun at her. Asaka is now being held at gunpoint by her and used as a meat shield to get Yogiri to back off. Yogiri is glad he has finally found Asaka. The head tries to blackmail Yogiri by telling him she will kill Asaka if he comes any closer, but that goes about as well as you would expect. Once Asaka is safe, Yogiri runs up to her and asks to go home. So, the two head out of the organization. Asaka sees the carnage Yogiri caused while trying to get to her, and while she's taken aback at first, she realizes Yogiri did all this for her sake. So, she holds his hand tighter and smiles at him. They later return to the confinement base where the lead researcher is waiting because he wants to have a chat with Asaka. She asks what is going to happen now after that whole incident. But really, despite all the people that died, nothing is going to be done. It's not like anyone has the power to punish Yogiri for what he did in the first place. She then asks what is going to happen to her, but since Yogiri has clearly grown attached, it looks like she's stuck doing this job now. However, he assures her that next time she wants to take a break, they will assign her a guard so something like this doesn't happen again. While Asaka doesn't like how he said it, she also doesn't have any intentions of abandoning her job either because she can tell that if she leaves Yogiri as he is now, he's likely to go on a rampage at the next slight inconvenience for him. So, she needs to teach him a bit more to get him to the point where he won't be a danger to the world. Back in the present, Danara is staring at Yogiri while he is sleeping, and Moko can tell that she is into Yogiri now. She doesn't exactly deny it, and Moko would be more than happy to have Yogiri added to the family bloodline, so Danara has got her blessing for those grandkids. She isn't opposed to the idea either. Yogiri wakes up soon after, so Danara makes Moko swear to not mention anything about having children with Yogiri. So, she changes the subject and says they have arrived in front of the capital gates, but she has no idea what they are going to do from here. They are also surrounded by guards who have come to investigate the strange new arrivals, so the captain asks them to step out of the vehicle. As they chat with the guard captain Torx, he asks them to identify themselves, so they tell him that they are sage candidates trying to get here for the trial. That would make sense, but Torx doesn't trust them yet. However, as soon as Yogiri pulls out the pendant Rick gave him, the guards all fall to their knees, as that is a pendant of the royal family. Rick is apparently a member of the royal family, so Torx agrees to let them get into the capital. But then, someone comes out and says just because they have a royal family pendant doesn't mean they can break the rules. This is David, Rick's younger brother, and since he is also a member of the royal family, he sees no need to accommodate people just because they apparently know his brother. He wants them to show him some proof that they went through the swordmaster trial by facing him in battle, since there is no way they would lose if what they claimed was true. Especially since David isn't that good with a sword, Danira wants to back out, but Moko eggs her on because David isn't an overpowered sword fighter. They get into position for the fight, and Moko explains the fighting style she taught Danira while David is using the orthodox methods. Danira is playing by street rules, so as the match begins, she immediately throws her knife straight at him. While he was distracted by the knife, she ducks down and dashes behind him before landing a devastating kick and preparing some scrambled eggs. It is safe to say that he is down for the count, so she is declared the winner of the match. The rest of the guards praise her for the skill she just displayed, as they've never seen anything quite like it before. But that's all part of the secret technique training Moko gave her. On another note, he is still on the floor in as much pain as ever, so Yogiri asks if they should do something about that. But Danira thinks she should be fine since she didn't kick him that hard after all. A while later, Yogiri is examining the castle walls when David, who has finally recovered, comes up behind him and explains that they have a spell cast on them by a great wizard named Igalsha, who is the same guy Yogiri killed in the tower, but he had better not mention that part. David offers to guide the two through the city, and it turns out he is not a bad guy after all, he was just a bit suspicious of them. After showing them around for a bit, Yogiri says they'll be fine to go alone from here because he has something he needs to discuss with Danira. They'll be meeting their classmates soon, so she needs to decide whether she will forgive them for what they did or not. They head to the castle where the rest of the class is gathered for a speech from the king. But as the king begins speaking, one of the students gets up and says he doesn't have the right to talk down to them because he's not their king. So the king gets up and gets right in his face. The boy was confident in his ability to defend himself because of his ability, but something happens that prevents him from using his freeze ability. So the king cuts off his fingers and proves that while the boy may not be his subject, he can still make him his anytime he wants. We see Seon walking in a grassy field, seemingly looking for something. As she walks through a barrier, which leads to a white subspace, she finds what she was looking for, AI, who has been thoroughly traumatized by horrors she saw when she tried to scam Yogiri once. AI realizes Seon is there and starts yelling at her for dooming this world to death thanks to her careless actions of bringing Yogiri. She knows she's an assassin, but this was never in the job description, so she wants nothing to do with any missions involving Yogiri or his friends. It doesn't look like she'll be leaving her panic room anytime soon, so she tries asking the talking sword she carries with her what happened. The sword explains that AI has been like this ever since she first encountered Yogiri, so Seon asks what information they managed to gather on him after their encounter. They weren't able to get much from scanning Yogiri, but they did learn a few things from Hanakawa. Meanwhile, Hanakawa is lying on the ground, begging for his life. As usual, he does such a pathetic loser. The boy serving the goddess asks him to share what he knows about Yogiri. Hanakawa frantically explains everything he knows about Yogiri's ability to kill anything he thinks about. He warns the boy not to think he's an exception to this rule. However, the boy doesn't believe Yogiri can actually do all that. Despite not doubting Hanakawa's words, the boy's main goal is to kill Yogiri. He believes he must possess powers greater than Yogiri's to do so. He pulls out a key, which is assumed to summon Ku, but it's actually something much worse. It's a key to a seal holding the Dark Lord's sister. She's so dangerous that even the Dark Lord had to seal her away when he had the chance. If she's scary enough to make the Dark Lord fear her, she should have enough power to beat Yogiri. However, having dealt with Yogiri before and now hearing about this terrifying sister, Hanakawa wants to excuse himself from the main cast and live a peaceful life as an NPC. Unfortunately, as he tries to back away quickly, Lute grabs his hair. Lute still needs Hanakawa around since he doesn't have much information on Yogiri, so he plans to bring him along. Meanwhile, back at the meeting with the king, the kid who got his fingers chopped off receives some basic medical attention from his classmates. The king casually tells them they must explore the underground labyrinth beneath the capital and defeat the dark god to earn their titles as sages. The king honestly believes they'll just die down there because they lack the skills needed, but he doesn't really care about that. To explain why the boy's powers didn't work earlier, it's because the royal family in this world can weaken the powers of sages. So, when they're near him, their powers won't work. But the boy doesn't have to worry about his fingers because once the king steps far enough away, they should be able to reattach them. After the king leaves, the students are silent, wondering what to do next. Meanwhile, Yogiri and Danara watch from the back. Danara finally speaks up, surprising her classmates who thought she was dead, but they completely ignore Yogiri's presence. Elsewhere in the kingdom, the others from the tower trial have just arrived by train with the Divine King. They bring her to what should be her church. As she walks in, she meets a man named Halaris, who tells her he's the current archbishop of the church. The Divine King's first thought after being revived 1,000 years later was to return home. But she never expected her home to have changed so much during her absence. Halaris offers to show her to her room and sits down to chat with her. He's overjoyed that she's back, but they had thought she was stuck keeping the Dark God at bay near the tower. Thankfully, the Dark God was defeated, so she's now free. In that case, Halaris asks what happened to the seal key, but the Divine King had never heard of any seal, so she doesn't know what to say. Halaris believes she genuinely doesn't know about it, so he uses a magic item to weaken her. Meanwhile, Yogiri and Danara are talking with their class president, who bluntly tells them he doesn't regret leaving them behind. If faced with the same situation again, he would make the same choice. Danara asks if he's upset that they survived the dragon, but before he can answer, another classmate intervenes, saying they shouldn't be fighting when they have so few allies. The girl who intervenes seems to be well known, but Yogiri never paid attention in class, so he has no idea who she is. Danara informs him that she's called Akino and back on Earth, she was a famous idol in the entertainment industry. It's no surprise she's popular among her classmates. The argument ensues about whether they can trust Yogiri and Danara. Akino points out that the one expressing doubt only does so because he knows if he were in their shoes, he'd probably seek revenge. It's clear that Akino is the one in charge here, as Yazaki lost a lot of influence over the class some time ago. Eventually, Yogiri and Danara are accepted into the group. Yogiri then heads to a lounge area with some other boys. The boys are complaining about the girls freely moving between the first and second floors while they're banned from the second floor for any reason. During their conversation, they realize Yogiri doesn't know who they are, which hurts a bit because Izumida had put effort into talking to him back on Earth. Izumida explains that they're considered the losers of the class, presuming Yogiri is one too, given his ability to only kill bugs. Others in the group have abilities ranging from reading to cooking, but not the useful kind. There's a knock at the door, and another guy named Fukai shows up, wanting to speak to Yogiri. Meanwhile, upstairs, Danara learns why the guys are banned from the second floor, mainly because of people with abilities involving secrets. In the class, there are 3 guys with abilities. One can stop time, another has X-ray vision to see through clothes. I think, guys, I need to kidnap this boy. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. And the third has tentacles. Naturally, the girls avoid them. At the door, 2 girls who know Yogiri's true nature come to discuss with Danara about him. Meanwhile, downstairs, Yogiri talks with Fukai, who refers to him as a god and tells him that in this world, Yogiri has become a death god too, able to do what Fukai admired him for. Yogiri senses that Fukai was assigned to watch him back on Earth, likely with reasons preventing him from sharing much, like a neck bomb. Yogiri asks why Fukai is here. Fukai explains that while he was assigned to watch Yogiri, he wasn't allowed to look at him directly. He then pokes out his own eye, which can detect the supernatural, indicating that if he had looked directly at Yogiri, he would have been traumatized, similar to a Wa. After Fukai leaves, Yogiri picks up the eye he left on the table and asks the other guys if they want to keep it, but they really don't want it. Following that, Danara comes in with the other 2 girls and asks to talk to Yogiri. They head outside, and Ryoko immediately bows down and apologizes for what she has done. She urges Carol to do the same because now that Yogiri has unsealed the first gate, he can kill anyone no matter where they are. Carol finds it amusing to see Ryoko freaking out when she's usually so calm, and Yogiri realizes that these 2 have also been watching him. Carol is from an organization, Ryoko is from the Institute, and Fukai is from a cult that worships him. Yogiri knew people were surveilling him, but he never thought there would be 3 separate individuals. Carol changes the subject and asks about Yogiri and Danara's relationship, wondering if anything non-family friendly has happened between them. Danara denies it quickly, but Yogiri ignores the question and asks what will happen next. Meanwhile, Euphemia is sitting on a rock, missing her sister Theo, when a vampire approaches her and declares that she will become the successor to the bloodline by killing Euphemia. Though she doesn't want to, Euphemia is forced to kill her on the spot. Back to Yogiri and Danara, they've been filled in on everything that's happened with the class recently. They also learn that Ao's ability can restrict the use of others' abilities, particularly those of high importance. Setting that aside, Yogiri tells them he came here to talk to Shine about getting home, and the others agree to join forces with him. The next day, the students are set to head into the dungeon for the first time, all wearing outfits that match their abilities but look way goofier than they intended. The guide for their expedition soon arrives, and Danira is shocked to find out that it's Rick who will be helping them. On the boys' end, they're assisted by David, who reveals that as a member of the royal family, his power can fully suppress demonic creatures. Lute asks David to suppress their powers as well so they can test their capabilities. The battle begins, and Yogiri uses his ability to sense malicious intent to dodge attacks from a monkey demon before finishing it off with a stab to the head, impressing the others with his skills. Meanwhile, in a city, Hanakawa is in tears as he walks with Lute. When Lute hears Hanakawa complaining about wanting to travel with a girl, he dresses up as a girl and asks if there's a festival happening since the people seem lively. Hanakawa mocks Lute for not knowing about city life, despite not knowing about the festival either. They are searching for the sister of the dark god, who should be sealed away somewhere in the capital. Elsewhere, Euphemia is walking through the woods after accidentally promoting herself to Origin Blood status. She nearly gets trampled by a horse but commands it to stop, and it obeys. A little girl comes running up after the horse. The girl apologizes for losing control of her horse, but Euphemia immediately bows to her upon recognizing her as a separate clone created by Lane before she died. The girl doesn't have a name yet, so Euphemia decides to call her Risley from now on. Back in the capital, Lute and Hanakawa head to a local tavern to gather information on the location of the Dark God's sister. Lute asks a waitress about the festival, and she explains that it celebrates the arrival of the sage candidates who are currently on the 5th floor of the labyrinth, despite only recently beginning their quest. Upon learning this, Hanakawa notices some of his classmates seated across from them, and it would be bad if they spotted him. To solve the issue, Lute uses a disguise spell to prevent them from being recognized. However, unexpectedly, Aka walks into the tavern and immediately starts beating one of them. Nothing the others do can stop her, and once she's done, she declares that she will kill one of her classmates every day as part of her revenge. She has left, and Sion shows up, questioning Hanakawa about Yogiri. He tells her everything he knows, and once he's of no use to her anymore, Sion prepares to use her death ray to kill him. However, it doesn't work, and instead, it covers him in cream. Hanakawa manages to live another day. Later, Yogiri and the others are planning on how best to find Sion. Since she will show up if they fail to become sages, Yogiri thinks that's the safest bet to meet her. Meanwhile, Sion and her confidant are deliberating what to do about Yogiri. She enlists the help of Bori to get rid of him in exchange for extending the deadline for the others to become sages. Ayaka is currently at the top of the tower, looking for her next victim among her classmates, but she is unable to find anyone. She is a robot, and her system begins analyzing the DNA obtained from the dragon meat she ate. However, while it's busy with that, a rock is thrown at her head with great force and accuracy. She's tough enough to not immediately die from it, but it still hurts a lot. She asks the system to find where the attacks are coming from, and as more rocks are hurled at her, the system pinpoints the attack's location. As a precaution, it advises her to use her flight ability to close the gap between her and the sniper as quickly as possible. The attacker turns out to be Shurayama Riona, who has the ability to increase her strength several times beyond normal. She came prepared with a plan to hurl rocks at her. Riona couldn't stand by while Shinazaki hunted down innocent people for the sake of her own twisted sense of revenge. Now that they are face to face, Shurayama Riona switches from her main plan of throwing rocks to her backup plan of fighting hand to hand. She tries to box Shinazaki into submission, but all her attacks seem to be reflected by some sort of barrier Shinazaki had set up, preventing them from connecting as she would like. Having learned all she needs, Shinazaki finally fights back, and as expected, Riona gets beaten, also losing an arm in the process. In the face of defeat and having lost an arm, rather than scream out in pain, Riona begins looking for excuses for her loss. She claims Shinazaki only won because of the royal family weakening the gifts of all the students within the capital. Meanwhile, Hanakawa and Lute have just entered the dungeon where the Dark Lord's sister should be held captive. Lute is eager to proceed with the revival by traversing the dungeon, but Hanakawa remains hesitant because they have no plan of attack heading in. He could just leave Hanakawa behind if he keeps complaining so much, but the fact remains that they don't know their way around here, so they would probably just end up getting lost if they tried. Just then, they notice a girl standing suspiciously in the middle of the dungeon. Hanakawa wonders if she is one of the dungeon explorers, but that doesn't seem to be the case as Lute recognizes her. He calls out to her, and she turns out to be Mama. She had recognized the smell of her sibling but couldn't wait for them to reach her, so she came out instead. Hanakawa is even more confused at this point, so he asks Lute for the identity of the girl, and she is revealed to be the one they are looking for, the Dark Lord's little sister. Elsewhere, an assassination bounty has just been put on Yogiri's head. However, Yogiri himself is sitting in his room all day, which Danira scolds him for, accusing him of being lazy. He corrects her by saying he is actually spending time learning to control his powers so he doesn't just kill people immediately. This is evidenced by his ability to now only kill a portion of a flower instead of the whole thing at once. However, aside from his training, he really hasn't done much since they got here, aside from a little stroll around town and having a snack while he strolled. Danara gets up and comments that he must really be enjoying the peaceful time he has if he can have so much fun despite the situation. But it's not like he had a completely peaceful time either. While he was walking through town, he was targeted by someone, which sounds pretty bad to Danara. That's why Yogiri wants her help with something he has planned back in the labyrinth. Hanakawa asks Mana if she was really sealed away down here, which she confirms to be true. Although she still doesn't really know the reason for it, she has a major brother complex, so she isn't even mad at the Dark Lord for sealing her away. She believes she must have done something to deserve it somehow. Her delusions aside, Hanakawa asks how she was able to come to the first floor if she is meant to be sealed in the depths of this place. The answer is actually pretty simple. She could leave whenever she wanted since the seal isn't strong enough to hold her. Her delusions led her to believe that her brother didn't want to be too strict with her, so he made the seal weak enough for her to be able to leave if she ever wanted to. Lute clarifies that she knows for a fact that the Dark Lord used every bit of strength he had to offer in order to seal Mana away, but it seems that wasn't enough to keep her down. With that out of the way, Mana takes a moment to ask if they have any of her brother's belongings with them since she can smell his scent on them. Hanakawa responds that they brought the key to the seal that was holding her, so he hands it over immediately. Meanwhile, Shinozaki is flying over the castle and has just used her system to locate the castle where the king should be, as well as the person she believes would be the king here. She bursts into the king's room while he was preoccupied and tells him straight that she wants him to deactivate the barrier that weakens the sage's gifts. He obviously goes for the offensive route since she is an unknown intruder, but he was not prepared to handle the amount of main character energy she possesses, so he gets fried to a crisp almost immediately. Shinozaki then turns to the woman in his bed and confirms with her that he is indeed the king of the kingdom. Once she is certain of that, she leaves, since the barrier she began is now active. Meanwhile, Mana has brought Lute and Hanakawa to the town she created for herself in the dungeon. And I'm not saying she's crazy, but she fantasized about having kids with her brothers so much that they became real. However, Hanakawa would definitely think she's crazy after killing the king. Shinozaki pulls up to the hospital where Riona was recovering and tells her to resume the fight she was in before. Now that the king is dead, she should be at full power, so there will be no excuses this time. Riona seems like she's ready to go, so she gets out of bed to attack her. From the blow she just landed, she may actually stand a chance against Shinozaki like this. They end up outside, but Riona isn't letting up as she hoists Shinozaki into the air and proceeds to pound her face in. Unfortunately, she still doesn't have a solution for Shinozaki's attacks as she gets her arm chopped off and her body suspended in the air while she's choked out. If even at her strongest Shinozaki is still this much more powerful than her, then there is nothing left to prove, so she will kill her now. After Shinozaki's rampage the night before, reconstruction is underway, but none of that matters to Yogiri as he is taking a nice walk with Danara. He wants to find the people who are targeting him, and since Danara has good eyesight, he was hoping she would be able to spot them if they try anything. She's a little disappointed since she thought Yogiri was asking her out on a date, but she still manages to turn it into one anyway. At the same time, someone is aiming a sniper rifle at Yogiri's head. Even though the gunman doesn't want to shoot because he knows it'll mean he'll get killed, a girl is forcing him to by torturing him. She wants to see if Yogiri will notice the attempted murder. When Yogiri notices and the guy is dead, the girl plans to target Danara to test something. Danara takes Yogiri to her favorite restaurant, but it's destroyed by Shinozaki's rampage. Danara is mad, but she decides to find another place to go with Yogiri. While searching on a map, a bullet is shot and Yogiri saves her from getting hit. The guy behind the computer orders for more shots to be fired, but he didn't realize the mess he had gotten himself into when he messed with Yogiri's girl. Now, Yogiri is after him. He immediately tries to flee the country for the sake of his life, but Yogiri kills his helicopter mid-flight, causing him to crash. He parachutes out, but almost immediately after, Danara appears behind him and pile drives his head into the ground. Once the guy regains his footing, he finds himself face to face with Yogiri. The fact that he didn't immediately run away means he knows all about Yogiri's powers. At the same time, Moko makes herself useful and takes out some spirits that were sent after Danara. She proceeds to finish off the two spirits by smashing their heads together. The guy starts sweating now and throws all the spirits at Yogiri, but they are all killed one after the other. He has nothing left to fight back with, but before anything else can happen, a knife is thrown at Yogiri by the girl from earlier. This time, he was actually taken by surprise and needed to be saved by Danara. He actually seems to know the girl and says a command which forces Enju to go offline. He tells Danara that he will explain everything later, but first, he threatens the guy so he tells him everything he knows. Meanwhile, Utori is doing his own research on Yogiri's capabilities and trying to come up with a way to counter them. Back with Hanakawa and Lute, they are being led around by Mana, and Lute takes the opportunity to apologize to Hanakawa for bringing him all the way out here. Hanakawa appreciates the apology but sounds like he's getting ready to die with how he is talking. Lute hands Hanakawa the key to the seal and says he is now the representative of the Dark Lord, so Mana probably won't kill him as well, but she is definitely going to kill Lute once she finds out he let her brother die. Back on the surface with Yogiri, the man has just told him everything that he knows and promises not to come after him any longer, but Yogiri says he is still going to kill him anyway. Yogiri knows that the guy's ability allows him to create any object from Earth, meaning he could make as many Enju clones as he wants, and that's something Yogiri can't let happen, so he has to die. They later bring Andrew to a room where Yogiri explains that she is someone who they used to play with as a kid, or to be exact, she is a robot that was modeled after Enju. But this one was made to kill him. He wants her to be able to rest forever, but that doesn't mean she is dead. She's probably doing fine right now and relaxing at home. What he was referring to as the robot version of her, since no one would want a robot version of themselves out in the world doing evil stuff. Meanwhile, Shinazaki is going after more of her classmates, but she chose to go after the chef, and we all know he's about to cook. Shinazaki's arm gets chopped off in an instant, and she's left shocked since she was sure her dragon scales could block any attack. One of Yugo's abilities allows him to cleave anything he considers to be an ingredient, so no shield can block his attacks. With that being the case, Shinazaki tries slicing him up before he can attack again, but he just appears again and reveals that another one of his abilities allows him to be in multiple places at once to cook efficiently. He also knows the exact location of anything he considers as an ingredient, so she can't hide from him either. However, while his abilities are definitely broken, he didn't have an answer for the most important part of being a chef, so he got cooked. After Yugo was killed, a meeting was held among the surviving class members to decide what to do from here on out. They are being killed at an alarming rate, and the kingdom has asked them to leave immediately because of Shinazaki's constant attacks. So, the only option left for them is to complete their objective as soon as possible and all head into the dungeon. We next see them on the 6th floor of the dungeon, and David has volunteered to go with Yogiri and Danra because he wanted to see this floor with his own eyes. The class prepares to battle an army composed of thousands of monsters, and honestly, it isn't much of a challenge for them as they wipe out every single one. Meanwhile, in Mana's chambers, Lute informs her that her brother is dead. He was expecting an outburst of emotion from her, but she calmly states that she knows death will come for everyone, and she will definitely take revenge on the ones who killed her brother. But first, she's going to have to make sure he comes back by giving birth to him. Hanakawa doesn't believe he heard her right, but she was dead serious about it and took Lute's arm so she can use the essence of the Dark Lord on him to make it happen. She was about to take his head as well, but Hanakawa stops her and asks if she can at least let him live. Surprisingly, she agrees to let Lute live as long as Hanakawa undoes the seal, so he does so without hesitation. Back with the class, they are setting up camp for the night and build a freaking castle to rest in. They have a party to celebrate their success in getting through the underworld easily so far, but Yogiri is nowhere to be found and is spending his time playing games outside. Yogiri ends up spotting David, who seems to be acting strangely, so he follows him until he sees that he's about to walk straight into a pit. Yogiri stops him, but he is still unresponsive, and moments later, a menacing aura begins to emerge from the hole as the ground shakes. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Sion has just shown up and doesn't like that things have been so easy for the class. She wants them to just kill each other until someone gets strong enough to be a sage. The news causes great worry among the class, but they have bigger things to worry about as Yogi seems to have opened his second gate. As he plunges into the pit in the mountains he was scouting out a travel route, Theo spots some people on a cart full of suspicious barrels. She wastes no time and leaps down to attack them with full force. The men in the front stood no chance and were immediately wiped out by her strikes, but the rest of them were able to prepare themselves after seeing her initial assault and immediately realize they are dealing with a half-demon. Theo's ready to attack again, but this time the men have a protective barrier put up around themselves, the work of the magician they have on their side, along with 4 barrels full of half-demons. So, they seem to be pretty confident in themselves. However, that confidence doesn't last very long as Theo's rage makes her strike even more powerful, shattering the barrier as well as the mana siphoning tool. The man tries to escape while Theo opens the barrels to reveal several half-demons being used as mana batteries, but none of them were her sister. Just then, she hears the distinct sound of a man being killed. But since it wasn't her who did the killing, she looks over and finds that it was the work of none other than Euphemia, the sister she has been desperately searching for. Euphemia is equally surprised to see her sister here, but finding Theo clearly wasn't her intended goal, as we see a fancy carriage pull up behind her. Meanwhile, back with Yoga's class, Sion has just ordered them to engage in a battle royale style fight to the death. She tells them they have 1 hour before they have to start killing each other, and 1 hour after the battle starts, she will personally kill anyone who hasn't killed one of the other students. One of the students tries to argue that it's crazy to expect them to kill each other for no reason, and Fukai threatens to kill her instead. She doesn't seem to mind the threat and even agrees that if any of them can actually manage to kill her, then the death battle will be over immediately. This seems a little too accommodating coming from someone like her. Fukai asks just to be sure if she doesn't have some ability that prevents their abilities from working on her, but she doesn't have anything like that. However, she warns him that he would have a better chance of surviving if he went after someone else knowing that his ability will work on them. Fukai immediately tries to use his instant death ability to kill her, but to his surprise, it doesn't work. She explains that she levels up every millisecond, and each time she does so, she's fully recovered from any damage taken, even if she was already dead. Now that she's back to life, she warns everyone else that they have no hope of beating her and should just get ready to fight to the death. While all that was going on, Danara was still out in the forest looking for Yogiri when two girls ran up to her to give her some bad news. Meanwhile, Yogiri is falling down the pit and has a flashback to a philosophy lesson he was given by Asaka when he was still little. She explained to him that transcendent beings cannot be limited to morals or ethics, so he needs to set principles for himself. Yogiri is powerful enough to do anything he wants, but that doesn't mean he should live his life aimlessly. That's why Asaka insisted he set rules for himself to follow. Back to the present, he thinks to himself that if he keeps following the rules he made, then he will definitely die from this fall. However, he needs to make it back to Danara safely, so he unlocks his second gate and starts defying the laws of physics. In this case, he kills his momentum to slow himself down before he reaches the ground. After setting Rick down, he wonders if he is on the 7th floor of the dungeon right now. In the castle, Mana's seal has been removed, but it doesn't really matter because she could already leave whenever she wanted. She just needed her brother's permission as a formality. Hanakawa doesn't care much anymore and just wants to leave. Mana tells him he can go because she's tired of seeing his ugly face. Hanakawa quickly agrees and gets ready to leave with Loot. However, as they're leaving, Hanakawa notices something strange on the floor. Loot explains that Mana is getting ready to give birth to another Dark Lord, and they're currently inside her. They need to run, but Hanakawa doesn't know where to go. Loot assures him that he's given him full control of the dungeon, so he can find his way out alone. Loot kicks him out to ensure his survival, and moments later, the room becomes part of Mana's body, filling with blood. Hanakawa is forced to run away. Meanwhile, on the surface, Theo has reunited with Euphemia, and they're traveling to the capital together. Euphemia has already explained everything to Theo, including how she's become the new origin blood of the vampires and gained the ability to sense people. They're asked to accompany them, and Theo has no problem with Euphemia joining. However, they wonder why she wants to go to the capital. Euphemia explains that she's going to meet Yogiri, but she's not sure if he'll be there. Luckily, Theo explains that she's met Yogiri before, and he told her he was heading to the royal capital, so he's definitely there. Meanwhile, Yogiri has just finished a call with Danara and learned about the chaos happening after a battle royale was declared. For now, he trusts Danara to handle things, but he's ready to step in if needed. Suddenly, Yogiri sees Hanakawa running towards him, being chased by a slime monster. Hanakawa bows down and apologizes for any trouble but asks for Yogiri's help in defeating the monster. Yogiri swiftly kills the slime monster, and once things calm down, he asks Hanakawa if he knows how to get back to the 6th floor. Normally, he could just retrace his steps, but since he fell straight down, he's lost. Fortunately, Hanakawa knows a shortcut and agrees to show Yogiri the way as long as Yogiri protects him. Yogiri agrees but adds a condition: Hanakawa must carry Rick's body, along with the other students who have started their battle royale. Meanwhile, we see a girl armed with a gun, ready for the battle. Kyoko enters a room where Ayaka, who was hiding in the ceiling, could see into the future and knew she was going to kill him. To prevent this, he makes his visions come true and summons someone else into the room, Shinazaki. Now Ayaka needs to leave quickly. Meanwhile, in the forest, Downright is still hiding in a tree, and Mokomoko tells her that Yogiri has fallen to the 7th floor but is okay. However, he doesn't know how to get back to the surface from there. Suddenly, they hear fighting sounds coming from the castle, and Danara is surprised that they're fighting each other so easily. It's probably because of the systems they have installed, messing with their ability to reason. They'll likely keep fighting until only one person is left. Meanwhile, Yogiri and Hanakawa reach the shortcut, and Hanakawa suggests that Yogiri can go to the 6th floor while he heads back to the surface for safety. However, Yogiri insists that Hanakawa comes along because he's the only one who can operate the elevator on the other end. Ayaka finds the door but can't open it, so he decides to leave. Just then, he predicts that Yogiri and Hanakawa are about to come through the door, so he tries to change the future by causing the ceiling to collapse on them and kill them. However, no matter what he does, he keeps seeing himself dying as a result. He even tries to tear out the page, but it's too late, he's already marked his own death in the death note. The moment Yogiri opens the door, Ayaka is killed. Hanakawa thinks Yogiri was too quick to kill Ayaka, but Yogiri sensed the killing intent coming from him. In another part of the castle, a student named Mei is lying in bed, contemplating ignoring the Sage Selection Battle Royale. Suddenly, she hears a voice from someone named Arima, who doesn't like that she's relaxing in his domain. Mei asks why he didn't just kill her immediately, but Arima says he would feel too guilty if he did that. However, that doesn't mean Arima doesn't have it in him to finish the job. The bed disappears, and a giant stone lands on top of Mei. Arima seems satisfied with himself, but moments later, Mei reappears in front of the two. They ask how she managed to get there, and she explains that she simply teleported herself. The other guy tries to attack her with lava, but she's completely immune to any and all attacks. The two realize they're in big trouble, and Mei's sadistic side starts showing. She throws a slow punch, but it still vaporizes him on contact. Arima asks how she got such amazing powers, so she explains that back on Earth, she witnessed two cats fighting, and one used a fireball blast that killed her. However, she was immediately brought back to life by the cat gods as an apology and given a portion of their powers. Arima questions why she didn't fight Sion if she has powers that could rival hers, but Mei finds the situation fun. She kills Arima and then receives a notification that Hanakawa has joined the battle as well, so she heads over to him for more fun. As she tries to kill him, Hanakawa gives her the creeps, and Yogiri asks if she came to attack them. She goes for her one-hit kill, but Yogiri stops her. She can't understand why her guaranteed hit failed, but it's because Yogiri had already killed one of the cat gods. She tries to get the other one to help her take down Yogiri, but he ends up killing that one too. Now completely powerless, Mei runs into the forest, where she will likely be killed by a random monster. Meanwhile, Kyoko is in a battle with Shinozaki, and it's pretty even. She has a wide range of weapons at her disposal, similar to a GTA inventory, and can pull out rockets whenever she wants. In the forest, Danara encounters Mikoshi, who is a necromancer. Mikoshi tells Danara that she also has a guardian spirit and introduces Tanu, who is apparently the princess of an ancient species. Upon seeing Tanu, Danara immediately wishes she had someone like her instead of her own guardian spirit, Moko, whose name she finds dumb. Moko tries to argue that she's technically a princess as well, but she doesn't have literal sparkles coming from her body like Tanu does. Although she may have lost in looks, she's confident she could still beat Tanu in a fight. Danara criticizes Moko for resorting to violence so quickly, but it turns out Moko was correct about being able to defeat Tanu. Mikoshi reveals that Tanu's abilities are limited to counting, up to 20 at most. Because of this, Mikoshi takes control of Moko from Danara to use her powers in the fight. Moko appears eager to confront Danara after the insults exchanged earlier, but she's still under Mikoshi's control. Since Moko controls the battle suit, she removes it from Danara. Yogiri approaches the scene and accidentally catches a glimpse of Danara's body. He quickly covers her up with his jacket, leaving Danara feeling embarrassed. She reluctantly admits that she could really use Yogiri's help right now. Elsewhere in the forest, Sora is confronted by Haruto and his allies, who have gathered to work together to survive and eventually challenge Sion. However, Sora has her own plans to become a sage independently. Haruto orders everyone to attack her, but Sora summons fans to defend herself. These fans are willing to sacrifice themselves to protect her, making it difficult for the attackers to get past them. However, Sora is ultimately dissolved alive by the slime monsters that have reached the 6th floor. Meanwhile, Mikoshi senses the fear coming from Moko, who knows what will happen if they fight Yogiri. Then, she hears a voice promising to grant her the true power of a necromancer, which must be the awakening Sion talked about. As the voice instructs her to release Moko so it can enter her body, she complies. She feels an incredible amount of power entering her body, but just as she finishes powering up, Yogiri kills her. Despite knowing how it would end, Danara is still upset at losing one of her best friends. Nonetheless, she acknowledges that Moko did try to kill her, so it is what it is. The plan now is to remove Hanakawa from the battle zone so Sion will receive an alert and come to kill him. This way, they can finally talk to her. Meanwhile, Kyoko is on the verge of being defeated by Shinozaki, so she's frantically searching her inventory for anything that could beat her. Eventually, she pulls out something that might help her. Outside, after Yogiri meets up with the others, he senses something is wrong and asks them to get behind him. Suddenly, someone detonates a nuke. After the explosion settles down somewhat, Shinozaki wakes up to find herself in a glowing area. However, Shinozaki knows there's no way she made it into heaven after the kind of life she's led, so she realizes the glowing area is likely just radiation. 60% of her body has been destroyed, so it will take a long while before her regeneration can get her back up and running. She would rather walk away from this without growing a third arm, so she asks the system if there are any other solutions available to her. The system reveals that she has one other option, but it's not going to be pretty. She could use dragon power to heal immediately, but it will result in irreversible changes to her body. Instead of just gaining an extra arm and maybe a little cancer, she'll transform into a full dragon. Meanwhile, Mana's body has just begun to form its first eye, indicating that things are about to get messy. On Yogiri's end, he and the others have managed to survive the bomb. He informs them that everything around them has been obliterated by the generated heat. Additionally, there were apparently nanomachines incorporated into the bomb to maximize the damage. Danner questions how Yogiri could have that kind of information, considering he has opened his second gate, allowing him to manipulate the laws of physics he doesn't like. Therefore, they shouldn't have to worry about most forms of attacks now. However, since everything is now an irradiated mess, Yogiri has no idea where the trial zone is supposed to end anymore. Shinozaki is flying over the area in her dragon form to complete her revenge, but the explosion probably already wiped everyone in the area off the map. The only thing left for her to do is to use her magic to confirm whether they are actually dead. Shinozaki proceeds to airdrop her teeth onto the floor, creating tons of dragon warriors that she can command as she pleases. This way, she can leave the task of searching for survivors to them. The warriors are efficient at their job and locate Yogiri's group almost immediately, closing in on them. They relay the information of the survivors they found to Shinozaki, who orders them to start attacking. However, as soon as that order is given, every one of the soldiers drops dead in an instant. Shinozaki doesn't understand what just happened, but her system begins warning her that she does not want to engage with Yogiri. It senses that something is not right and warns her that Yogiri is being called Alpha Omega back on Earth. Shinozaki still doesn't understand, so the system explains that it was created as a backup plan for humanity in case Yogiri ever decided to wipe out all humans. It urges her once again to retreat because she has no chance of winning. However, Shinozaki has already sacrificed her waifu status for her revenge, so there's no going back for her anymore. Yogiri and the others notice the dragon heading towards them, and despite the warnings from her sister system, Shinozaki charges at Yogiri. However, she is immediately killed. After she is gone, Danara walks up to one of the dragon warriors and is dismayed to find out that it was actually Shinozaki. Hanakawa, sick of all the death and destruction, just wants to leave this place while he still can. Yogiri agrees, and they decide it's time to leave the trial area. As expected, there's nothing left in the area due to the explosion. Hanakawa thinks Shinozaki might not even care anymore at this point since everything was already destroyed. However, she suddenly appears right behind him, scaring the daylights out of him. Since Yogiri finally gets the chance to meet with Kan, he asks her to confirm that she is indeed the one he has been looking for. She confirms that she is indeed the one he's been seeking, and she's been after him for a while as well, although she thought he was already dead. However, Yogiri doesn't have time for idle chat, so he deals damage to Sion's right ankle, causing her to fall to the ground to make his point clear. Sion is shocked that Yogiri was able to damage her. He urges her to answer his question so he can continue with his business, but instead, she tries to launch a magic attack at him. Yogiri kills it before she can complete the attack and warns her to stop because it's annoying. He also tells her not to bother trying to stop his heart or use an instant death skill because it won't work. He just wants to know how he can get back to his original world, assuming she would know since she was the one who summoned him there. As motivation for her to talk, he starts killing 2 of her fingers. As soon as Sion realizes she has lost control of some fingers, Yogiri tells her that he will keep killing her bit by bit until she tells him what he wants to know. Sion defiantly looks at Yogiri and teleports herself away. Hanakawa is worried since they may have lost track of her for good, but Yogiri thinks it's fine since she won't be able to escape him for long. Sion appears in her bedroom and collapses on the floor in panic. She tries to rip off her hand and grow a new one to see if she will regain control of her fingers, but she has no luck. She doesn't understand what's happening, but then suddenly Yogiri kills more bits of her. Realizing that Yogiri is going to kill her anyway, she decides not to tell him anything. Just then, Yuichi enters Sion's room to see what's wrong, but he gets caught up in the crossfire as Yogiri immediately starts killing him as well. First, it's his leg and then his arm. Sion realizes that no one is safe as long as Yogiri is after her. She teleports back to him and begs him not to kill Yuichi as he is the only person she cares about in this world. But all of this could have been avoided if she just told him what he wants to know. No matter where she goes, Yogiri can kill her anytime, as well as anyone she sees. Yogiri asks her once more how they can get back to their world. Sion explains that she didn't prepare a way to send them back when she transported them here. Although Hanaka was able to come back from this world once before, it was because his connection to Earth was maintained as he was brought over. However, this time the connection wasn't maintained at all because otherwise, it wouldn't have allowed them to gain full power in this world. In that case, Yogiri asks her to show him the coordinates of their original world. Sion does as she is told, but since the coordinates are so long, Moko has to store them in her spirit cloud drive. Yogiri knows that all he needs to be able to make it back to Earth is to know the coordinates of the world and to have enough energy to make it to the higher planes. He asks Sion where he could get the required energy from, and not wanting to disappoint, she immediately pulls out a philosopher's stone, saying it could do the trick. One may not necessarily be enough, but if you were to get his hands on multiple at once, then it may hold enough power to get them back to their world. Yogiri asks if she will be alright without the stone, but she says she has never really relied on it before, so she doesn't care if she loses it. Every sage in this world has one of these stones, so Yogiri asks about the ones belonging to the sages that he has already killed. Unfortunately, when a sage is killed, their philosopher's stone immediately loses all its power because it is connected to the life of its sage. That's an annoying condition to have to deal with, but Yogiri is fine with it. Yogiri asks where the rest of the sages currently are. Even Sion doesn't know the exact location of every sage in this world, so Yogiri decides to call it a day and head back to the surface for now. He asks Hanakawa about getting back to the surface. He starts looking at his map, but then he also asks if Yogiri is really going to just leave Sion like this. He only really wanted information from her in the first place, and although he may hold a slight grudge against her for starting this whole mess, it's not enough for him to choose to kill her. Hanakawa really doesn't like the idea of letting someone who caused them so much trouble live. Sion is left defeated on the ground when she remembers that she needs to get back so she can help Yuichi. But as she tries to fly away, she finds herself being grabbed by the goof from Mana's body. Then personally shows up in goof form and talks about how her immune system was acting up, so she came to check what the cause could be, only to find a sage running around in her new body. Sion recognizes her as the dark god of the dungeon, so she chops off her leg and is about to teleport away. She is now realizing that she may have been a bit harsh in sending the sage candidates here, but before she can escape, Mana counteracts her system and causes her to fall face first into the goof. Mana mocks her for relying on a system meant for kids to play with, and since she has disabled all of Sion's abilities, she's going to begin digesting her body so she can become nutrition for the new body. Sion sees no way out of this, but even in death, her only regret is not being able to see Yuichi again before she dies. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the kingdom, some invaders are attacking as they normally do, but then one gets run through by that robot that has been running around for a couple of episodes now. The dismembered robot simply reforms its midsection while the other one goes about its business. They're just minding their business when all of a sudden, Mana's goof comes flying out from the ground and completely absorbs it in one go. The same thing is happening everywhere else in the kingdom, and Rick has no idea what he is meant to do to stop this. However, as a member of the royal family and acting king, it is his duty to stop and defend the kingdom during times like this. He heads down to the streets and begins slashing away at the goof, but even though he is able to destroy some amount of it, there's still a lot more where that came from. As Yuichi and the others finally make it back to the surface, the fanatic laughter from Archbishop Hollies can be heard. He's apparently a worshipper of Mana, and as David recognizes him, he is greatly disappointed. Holaris questions how they could possibly have access to the secret entrance only he knows about, but before he could say anything further, Yogiri skips the cutscene by killing him. They then look outside and see the sea of red goof filling the city streets, which is kind of all Hanaka's fault for releasing the seal on Mana. However, he was threatened, so he's not entirely to blame. The goof enters the barrier around the Divine King's throne room, and Moni forms in front of the group. She recognizes Hanaka and asks him to take her to Yogiri since she knows he's the one who killed her brother. Hanaka wastes no time in ratting Yogiri out as he immediately points to him so Mana won't dissolve him. Now knowing that the boy in front of her is Yogiri, she raises her hand to squish him to death, telling him to die. But Yogiri hits her with the Uno reverse, so she dies, leaving a bunch of goo all over the kingdom. Now that they've accomplished most of what they needed to, it's kind of hard to tell what they are supposed to do from now on. For now, Rick suggests they head to the roof of this building since he knows there's something up there that can be of use. They reach the roof and find a flying machine that was left in storage, but it doesn't really look like it's got enough space to accommodate everyone. They consider leaving Hanakawa behind for a bit, but Moko says they should let the others have the plane since she and Yogiri can use something else. Instead, Rick and the others take off in the plane to an undetermined destination. Donner asks what exactly this flight solution that Moko came up with is supposed to be. Without further delay, Moko transforms Don's battle suit into a flight suit with design choices that both I and Yogiri can appreciate. Once they've made it out of the city, they still have to answer the question of what they want to do from now on after everything that has happened. Donna would like to take a break for a bit. In that case, David suggests that he would take them to a nearby town since the capital doesn't look very relaxing anymore. Hanakawa dipped a while ago, but it's not like they really need him anyway, so we'll forget about him for now. Carol says they are going to follow Yogiri, which he says is fine by him, although he makes it clear that he isn't going to do any extra work to get energy for them to return to Earth. It's a logical approach since he can't guarantee that he'll find enough stones for everyone, and quite frankly, He doesn't care much about Ruko or Carol. They are fine with that kind of arrangement as long as they get to stay by his side, and Ruko even offers to carry him on her back if he would like. Just then, Arlai's carriage shows up, and she immediately runs over to Yogiri. He has never seen her before, so he doesn't know what this is about, but as soon as Risley asks him to marry her, he shuts her down really quick. The Oja and Euphemia come after Rizzle and tell her that's not a good way to propose. So, switching tactics, Rizzle offers Yogiri her Philosopher's Stone if he is willing to listen to her proposal. In other news, the Divine King saw the whole situation with Yogiri killing Mana, and she's honestly scared of what he could do, so she plans to keep an eye on him. Lori, or at least what's left of him after the disaster, gets grabbed by the surviving invader and is taken away. And Hanek is determined to create his own realm in this world, one even better than Yogiri's, but I doubt that's ever going to happen. Meanwhile, Yogiri gets to enjoy the company of Dona and the other girls in his harem. That's it for this video. Watch the following video, and I'll catch you in the next one.